Hello from the outside. All right. Hello, everyone. We are starting early and we're getting right into it. My name is Brittany Simon. We do philosophy through pop culture, and we're getting right into it because today is commentary week. So over on my second channel where I make highly edited commentary videos, I am in middle of editing a video right now. So, I did not sleep as well as I could have, but here I am. I wanted to go ahead and focus the stream on closing up a chapter that we've been covering for a week and some days. Bringing in the story around Anita and anti-Blackness, the elderly woman that was killed recently. I want to talk about the conversation about K-pop and Trisha Paytas and some of the backlash I've received from mostly non-viewers. Literally, I have to talk to you about this because I've had a lot of people coming into my chat this last week who do not know me. They do not know my work. And they are saying really horrible things. And not only do I have to read every comment so I can censor them so you don't have to read them, but I also have to deal with the fact that, I'm going to be real, getting this much feedback feels so bad that I'm sitting here and thinking to myself, this is why I don't want to be famous. Because what is the point of being famous if you have to read these comments? They're just horrible, really racist, really homophobic, really awful, just... and I'm not talking about ones that are rightfully criticizing me. Those ones I love. I'm talking about the ones that are, just saying things because they're obviously either 12-year-olds or 45-year-olds, and I'm not sure which one they are, but they're obviously unwell, I think. And I'm going to highlight some today, right? When we talk about the last subject which will be Chelsea Fagan again, I didn't expect that video to do so well. I did not realize how many people were kind of on a hate train for Chelsea, at least on Reddit. And I didn't realize, and I purposely didn't put her name in the title or anything, even though she's obviously on the thumbnail, because I didn't want to be like that. I do like Chelsea still, but I think some of the comments that highlighted the differences between our bubbles is what I need to go over with you today. Because again, when I am speaking, I'm coming from a leftist, anti-capitalist, intersectional perspective. There are so many different bubbles at play here, and it is my job and responsibility to communicate to you. And I have to recognize, and I think people coming into my channel have to recognize, you're also stepping into a cultural bubble. Just like if you visited a different country or walked into a church, you would assume their customs. You should do the same on my channel, because I am trying to build an expectation here, right? And the thing is people will come into this space not adhering to the expectation and then say, oh, Brittany can't handle criticism. Habibi, you added in a racist talking point while you were criticizing me. Of course I don't care about your criticism. And that's what I'm going to highlight today, because there are a lot of people playing some race cards here that are absolutely weaponizing right-wing talking points to try to own me because I'm... okay? Which absolutely, if I hear leftists and black and brown people talk about my privilege of whiteness, absolute agree. But I will not have people coming into my space talking badly about other marginalized people and then pulling out a race card and saying, oh, you can't argue with me, I'm this race. Or the worst one I keep seeing is, I'm not even this race, but I'm defending this race. And because I'm defending this race, you can't say anything because you're white. And I'm like, don't make me pull out my West Asian card. Don't make me pull it out, girls. So I'm going to be very serious with you today. Okay, maybe make a couple jokes, but I recognize that my responsibility moving forward, especially if I get a bigger channel, which would be the goal, is to eventually disconnect from the comment section and or decide how I'm going to moderate it. Because, for so long, we've been so privileged in this space to have a small community and a community that is so good faith that when my videos in any way pop off and they bring in hundreds of comments of people that aren't used to this content, my audience also feels it. I know, because my Discord and I screenshot your comments and share them in the Discord. And then we talk about you, we talk about the YouTube comments. And it's because we're sitting here in a small, safe space, able to dissect and observe the commentary that I'm receiving. Right, it's also highlighting the bubble overlap, right? So again, when we have these conversations, I want you to know that, of course, I'm trying to be intersectional with my observations, but I don't think a lot of the comments are, because they're not intersectional feminists. They're not leftists, or they're leftists who are not intersectional. So I'm trying to gauge if a MAGA person is in my chat and arguing with me. I don't like to argue with MAGA. I don't argue with Republicans. So same thing. If I have a leftist in my chat who's arguing identity politics doesn't matter, I'm not having this conversation with you. When Black grandmas are being murdered at Tim Hortons, I'm not having this conversation with you. And so again, I think that's the problem that I'm seeing. So just to highlight, let's jump in, straight in. Okay, if you have a question, tag me so I can see it highlighted or put my name in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to focus in on this because I'm just going to get right into it. This story happened last week, okay? This story happened last week. Just a reminder, okay? It's all very blurred. But this is the only physical contact that I can see on camera. So now she shoves her off. She shoves her off. Don't touch me, right? Then she gets bigger in her face, pushes against the barrier. The barrier moves, okay? So the barrier's moved. This thing has fallen. Now we're escalating. Now the elderly lady swings and tries to punch her in the face. So we've got, from the worker's perspective, 2 physical movements before the old lady hits. Okay? Then this is the shot everyone's looking at. So they're calling victim. So then she starts wailing like she's fucking at the UFC, bro. This fight move, that's what she did to an old fucking lady who's probably complaining about her coffee. Okay, back to President Britney now. So that happened, right? We all saw the footage. The reason I covered this story is because already on my algorithm timelines, which you know I'm in every bubble on the internet, I am chronically online. It is my job. It is my special interest. There were so many people blaming Anita for her own death. And then I started censoring my comments because of this. And I knew they would be bad, but even the worst ones, I didn't even bother to screenshot, and I should have, but I did save a few. So I will show you a few examples because people were like, you're being such a liar. Nobody said she deserved to die. Nobody said she deserved this. Habibis, when you say about an old lady who died, she had heart condition. She should have known better. She was 75. I feel bad for her, but I don't even feel bad for her. When you say things like, oh, she shouldn't have been so argumentative, even though the footage was absolutely like propagandized by the news agencies because they showed you only after Anita was upset. And that's why I showed you everything leading up to the confrontation, because Anita came in calm. Anita entered that Tim Hortons calm. That is why it was a trick for the media to look at you and say to you, oh, look at this lady. She came in so aggressive. And that's why all of my comments were like, this woman deserved it. She came in hot, like from the jump. She never did that. That's not what the footage shows. So here's an example of some of the comments that I'm getting, right? Okay, so Brittany Simon, I'm Spanish, and I'm also elderly. So if I punched you in the face, you would not retaliate? ? Careful what you respond, because I'm not white. What am I supposed to do with this comment? Like, what am I supposed to do with this comment? You know what I'm saying? So obviously I blocked this person. Blocked. This is not a genuine conversation. This is not a good faith conversation. I am asking you to have the dignity to not murder somebody over a dispute when you could have de-escalated. You could have literally gone to the back. You could have called the cops, which, you know, is questionable when it's, you know what I mean? But you could have done so many other things than this old woman needing to die because of XYZ. So the fact that people are in the comment sections, it gets worse. Okay, example. This one, she was a black supremacist with phobia due to her unlearned black privilege. She felt she could attack the white worker with impunity. It was definitely a hate crime, and she died after her disgusting racist attack. Girl, we live in a country where when we see white women call little black autistic children the N-word, they raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay? We see, like, don't even get me started on the amount of anti-blackness that I had to literally block from my chat. That isn't my viewers. These are not my viewers. These are people purposely seeking out Anita videos and specifically seeking out anybody that had empathy for her and then coming to attack this woman's credibility as she's literally in the grave. Anita Grayson was not killed. What happened to her was her own fault. didn't she have a pacemaker put in weeks before? Maybe something happened with her pacemaker. Is this gonna be another fentanyl Floyd case? George Floyd, okay, this is a racist comment. Again, this goes back to anti-blackness in America. This goes back to the racism. And again, I know you see me talking about Trisha Paytas and Chelsea Fagan, all these things, but I tell you right now, I see the internet. I know the intersections between these bubbles. Not all of them. I learn every day, just like you. But I have to sit here and censor these comments by hand. So I see the feedback. So when you sit there and look how fast I blocked it. 14 seconds, baby. Because your girl is always refreshing her comments to catch them very quickly. So none of you have to read it. Okay? And so I catch it very quickly as fast as I can because I don't want that shit on my channel. And then the audacity of people to come into my chat and be like, oh, this white woman is trying to speak for Koreans, which, by the way, shout out to my members who explained it to me in a way that my brain understood. I have you. I got you. I understood. You were concerned I was speaking for Korean people. Don't worry. I have Koreans ready to go who are leftist, who are exactly pushing the same points I'm pushing. I get it. Sometimes I do take for granted, and this is my fault, that you would assume good faith of me and that I've done my research. And when I don't always have the spoons to pull up all of my receipts, I understand it might look like I'm trying to speak for Koreans. I would never try to do that. I am specifically speaking about Trisha Paytas. I need a space to criticize this white person without everybody thinking I'm speaking for Koreans. Yes? So don't worry. I have Koreans ready to go, people on the left who are ready to go, who see the same exact problems I'm seeing, okay, except they're speaking from the Korean perspective, and I was speaking from the femme trans perspective, or the femme queer perspective, or the capitalistic perspective. Okay, so I get it. I hear you. Thank you for my members who spoke out. But no thank you to any of those people that were calling me a white racist lady for going after Trisha Paytas, which is so ironic because why are you defending this racist white lady to me? Thank you. Okay, next comment. Both sides were in the wrong. Nobody in that building deserved to die, and you just don't hit people. People die in fights all the time. If you choose to participate in that fight, you're signing up for any and all repercussions. I don't see any innocent victims here. You don't go into a place of work and threaten to hit young folks. You also don't put your hands on your customers. I don't personally feel bad she died, just as I won't feel personally bad if the person she fought with suffers consequences for dying, for her dying. Both sides had the ability to back away and remove themselves from danger. And then they go on to say, hey, it kind of feels like you're biased on the older woman's side, and I'm not sure why. I don't know. Maybe it's because she died. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't know anything about her. Maybe because she just seemed like a old lady who went to a coffee shop to get a new coffee. I don't fucking know. Maybe she didn't get her change. Maybe something happened in the drive-thru. I don't fucking know. Why wouldn't I have good faith in this old woman? I don't know her. She's not Charlie Kirk who died. She's not a raging racist who makes a public, millions of dollars going around talking bad about Muslims and trans people and black people. So I don't know. Maybe when she dies, I automatically, feel empathy. I'm being too sarcastic. Hold on. Okay. Am I being too much? Listen, don't ask stupid questions. Okay. Don't ask me stupid questions. That's a stupid question. Why am I being so empathetic? I'm doing it again. Okay. Listen. Okay, this one. Darks are such hypocrites. They would be making jokes about a Karen, fuck around and find out. That's not even how you write it. If pigments were switched, media would be silent and swap skin. Darks? Do you know what I'm saying, girls? Come on now. Do not come at me, okay, and act like I am not researching, that I don't have receipts, that I haven't seen evidence, that I don't know what the fuck people are saying about minorities on the internet when I live and breathe it, and you just figured out what the fuck intersectional means. Okay, with peace and love, we all come, we're all on a journey, and we all reach these things at a different time, and everyone has a different way of learning information. So I get it. Okay, but please do not even attempt to come to my channel and in any way bad faith lecture me when you are sitting here saying, race doesn't actually play a role and your political affiliation shouldn't even matter when talking about Trisha Paytas, which I will show you these comments. And by the way, one of the type of comment I could not highlight because I blocked them all was the people who were saying I was racist for not siding with black people who also thought Anita deserved to die. Because I said in that video that I was sad to see black women on TikTok talk about how Anita deserved it. Because I am on Black TikTok, and a lot of the black women there were kind of talking about their trauma in relation to elderly women in their community. Not my business, not my place. But I did say I'm sad to see just the amount of it's a system failure, right? It's a white supremacist propagandist machine to think. I was thinking macro, they're thinking micro. It's all valid, right? But for people to say, if Brittany doesn't agree with these black people that Anita deserved to die, she's racist. That's what you're doing to me in this Korean situation too. If Brittany doesn't agree with these Koreans who say Trisha's not being racist, then Brittany's racist. No. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Which one of the criticisms am I getting is not doing that? And which one of the criticisms am I getting is doing that? Because that is exactly the weaponization of people of color that have been used against marginalized communities. And that's why at the expense of our own communities, the joke, nobody hates an immigrant like an old immigrant. That's my family. My family falls for this fucking white supremacist propaganda about how they're the good immigrants because they did it correctly, when they are literally from a region that has been called the terrorist state. Okay. So again, when we have conversations about, whiteness or anything else, you are also erasing the fact that I am West Asian. I understand I am white. I am not trying to play like I'm not white, but you are erasing the fact that my history is tied to a country that, God forbid I mention it in this white supremacist world. Everyone goes, okay, so don't even get me started about the ways that we all have to deal with our elders in our communities, the MAGA people in our communities, the conservatives in our communities. And then on top of that, you're coming to my channel, which is technically really my culture, because this is a cultural space here, right? And you are assuming you even understand what's going on. And even for people who are like, oh, Brittany, I watch your content, but this one was a miss. How much of the content are you watching if you don't think politics plays a role in anything we're doing, even though this is a philosophy channel? Do you know what I mean? Okay, I'm going to show you an example that I think is really interesting and plays into sort of this narrative about getting into people's business. Listen, we covered Cheyenne Brandt last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago. I have stopped talking about Cheyenne because I already gave my perspective from a scammer perspective, a woman perspective, whether or not you need to be educated perspective. You know what perspective I didn't comment from? The Black experience grifter perspective, the pro-Black scammer epidemic. You know why? Because Olay and Foreign and Cam and all of these people already had it covered, and they did a much better job than I would ever do talking about Black bubbles and Black politics and American, by the way, U.S. Blackness, because a lot of this is at play. And I know this isn't my place to speak. It's my place just to tell other people, if you are not in Black bubbles, you do not understand the fights between people from Africa and Black Americans, and how some people from Africa, specifically, I think South Africa, if I'm not mistaken, they specifically do not identify with like the N-word. They think they're different than Black Americans. They look at Black Americans like they're less than. And that's all inner politics of those. That's not my exact, okay? But when you don't understand that, and then you try to come into my channel where we're talking about US politics and we're talking about the different, and then you go, oh, but what about this? And what about this? And what about this? Again, okay, again. So let me just show you, like, okay, this is the example I want to give, because so in this video, basically what's happening is there's a conversation, right? And this is Olay and Flacco. And Flacco's more on, and this is Olay explained to Flacco that he's over on a different bubble on the internet, right? She goes, your space on the internet, it's different. The rules are different. The expectations are different. He's more in the, kind of red pill, Corey, manosphere, blah, 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 blah. And so he doesn't understand that when those men in those bubbles called out Cheyenne Brandt, they would have called her out for less. And that's what Olay is trying to explain to him. That's what I was trying to explain when I was defending Cheyenne, is like men will pile on a woman who is successful and then claim they saw her grift from the beginning when they absolutely did not. Okay? As they're making pedophilic jokes, by the way, which is what Corey did. We've covered this. Corey makes pedophilic jokes as a part of his comedy and then has the audacity to try to take credit for calling out Cheyenne Brandt. I don't think so. But
niggas, men, listen, we watched that Cam Newton interview.
Yes.
And we saw a manipulator. We watched that Cam Newton interview and we saw
the same niggas
and this,
who follow the same niggas who on that side of the internet though, always, it don't take much for them to go not trust. They don't trust women. They don't like women in general. So yes, they're going to see it. Meanwhile, they don't see it in Kevin Samuels and all they niggas that they love and they follow it. Corey Holcomb, anybody who like Corey Holcomb, but don't like Cheyenne Brandt can't tell me shit. You ain't assessing this from the right place. It's like, yes, they saw it, but they didn't see it because they have some like deep discernment. They inherently distrust women, let alone a woman coming around being critical of a man. That's what it is.
Exactly. Now, I didn't say it. She said it, but I agree with her. And that is the point. That's the point about the misogyny part that I was talking about in my original observation. And then on top of that, and this is why I love this video, is on top of that, our communities are holding each other accountable. And I'm saying the reason I will highlight Korean TikTokers is because they're already on it. So all those people in my chat who are like, Koreans love her, Koreans love Trisha. Okay, yes, Koreans who are probably elder or probably not leftist, who are probably not intersectional. But if you talk to leftist intersectional Koreans, they are not fucking happy because they know it's bullshit. And that's what I'm saying. So when you talk about Cheyenne Brandt getting a doctorate, getting an honorary doctorate. This is exactly the changes young people are trying to make in our communities individually, is to say, stop calling people doctor that didn't earn it, and stop giving credit to white femmes for doing Korea better. Like, they literally are saying Trisha is better at Korean than K-pop singers or K-pop Korean artists. And I'm saying, like, why are you saying this about your, like, why are you doing this? So just another example from the Black Bubble.
This, right? So if she didn't lie about being a doctor and she just called herself a doctor, would y'all still have a problem with it?
Calling yourself
if
a doctor
so,
is
what's the meaning
That's a
of
lie, dog.
That's
What
a
you saying?
lie. You can't call yourself a doctor.
Wait though. But again, right? So look, again, Dr. Sabi was not a doctor, but he
shouldn't have been calling himself a
called
doctor.
himself.
Don't get us started, nigga.
Right?
Don't get me started.
But the knowledge he had was worth that title, though, right?
Right? So look, Olay, Foreign, Cam, like, I'm much more, I don't know this lady down here. I'm sure she's lovely. And Flacco's on that other side of the internet. But these three, I'm much more aligned politically, philosophically, you know what I mean? And I would even say I'm slightly farther left than them as well. I would also say that, right? Because I don't know how many of them strongly identify as like anti-capitalist. I'm still learning everyone's perspective. Cam just recently did an interview with Gavin Newsom. So, you know, I mean, he makes good content. So I'm not saying it, I'm just, you know, talk about bubbles. So again, when we have these conversations, people in our communities, they are doing the work. They are working on it. And I need people to know, and this is what I'm trying to explain to you from my perspective for the people in my audience who might be new to my work and don't know who I am. Like, I do philosophy and I'm trying to help individuals figure out how to live in the world as both an individual and a collectivist, but also sharing my own personal experiences, my own personal deconstruction journey, because I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to be a good person. Something I just recently learned about that I did not know about as an example of learning and diving into Black bubbles and or Korean bubbles and or insert group here bubble. And I know a lot of people aren't doing that because I see the content that you make and I can tell like who you've been listening to and watching to, which is what we all look for when we listen to people talk, okay? Something I just learned about is white mothers that have Black children and call them the N-word. Like, pourquoi? And that might sound so ignorant, but how many people, but see how I sit there and I go, oh my God. And then some people might sit there and be like, no, that doesn't happen. How could she say that? She has a Black child. I just came across this video, very triggering, very shocking. And I was like, oh my God, I'm learning so much about how cruel the world can be.
You hear? She says, stupid nigger.
So this top guy is a commentary channel, okay? And then this is the video.
There you go, yup. That's Julie for y'all. I'm posting this shit. This Julie.
I don't care.
That's Julie. This the real Julie.
Tell everybody.
This ain't the fake shit. Y'all probably right at UTMC. She is racist. You heard her? Everybody meet Julie, the white Ohio mom who distastefully call her biracial son the N-word every time she's mad at him. This is such a sad situation because that's her biological son. And he decided to make a post about this because he stated this is something that he had to struggle with throughout childhood, throughout his whole life with his own mother. Can you imagine your mom, who's supposed to love you, calling you the most disheartening, distasteful thing in this world? And you know what makes it more even crazy? She's not only a white mom to a biracial son, she's a nurse at the University of Toledo Medical Center. You guys know the history of some white nurses towards Black patients. Can you imagine if this is how she's acting behind the scenes? Imagine how she treats her Black patients at the medical center. And to make it even more fucked up, it was stated that multiple Black Americans who reported her at the job for being racist was fired. Instead of her being let go, they were fired for calling her out on her racism. I guess they didn't have enough proof of her being racist, but here's all the proof right here. And not to say this to all white moms with biracial kids, but this is the reason why Black people be kind of looking side eyes when we see y'all with Black kids. Because in our heart, we hope that they're being treated fairly and don't have to deal with anything like this. And to all the brothers and sisters out there who's dating outside of the race, it is very important, and it is also your job to educate your partner on why it's important to not say things like the N-word or distasteful things towards Black people. Because it seems like a lot of y'all get with these partners and don't really educate them on the culture the right way. Some of y'all just let them do anything or let them disrespect the culture, say the N-word, call out your kids, call them the N-word, And that's just not right, especially knowing the importance of our culture and what we've been through up in this country. Not even in this country, even in Africa. If you have a white partner, it is best to educate them correctly on why not to say things like this.
You know, and I just think that stuff is like, it's so important that we recognize all of these bubble differences. And that's why I say, you know, I don't take it to heart people who don't watch my content, who come into it and call me like a racist white lady. Like, at the end of the day, I know I'm white and I don't need to pull my West Asian card every time. But the truth is that it is obvious to me that they are not coming in good faith, because they also follow it up with comments about how like race and politics don't play a role in this, and while calling me like, oh, you're not taking the criticism. And I'm sitting here like, everything comes back to white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism. And even more than that, even our history is so erased, like, especially from a US lens. So for me not to be able to like comment on Trisha's behavior by calling out a white femme because you guys feel like I'm speaking for Koreans, I feel like is missing the point of what's happening here. And again, it's not because I'm trying to erase Korean voices. Opposite. But I also understand that I'm a leftist, so I'm already a minority amongst the minorities, which is why the Chelsea Fagan thing was so upsetting for some people, even though many people agreed. A lot of people were also like, you're so jealous, you're just envious of Chelsea, like you're so jealous of her. It's like, and I told them, guys, it's like you're saying I'm a vegan is jealous of a meat eater. Why would I be jealous of a meat eater? It doesn't make sense. Like, you're not understanding that we have principled differences. So I'm coming from my own principled place. You can disagree, okay? But like, you're not understanding it. So check this out, since it was Memorial Day, and this is going viral, the original story about Memorial Day.
Did you know that Memorial Day is actually an abolitionist-founded holiday? Hi, I'm Abiola Ogoro, and this is DSR in a Minute or Less. In February 1865, all of the Confederate troops withdrew from Charleston, South Carolina, leaving thousands of freed Black people in the area. Now, these people are actually the original creators of Memorial Day. After all these freedmen saw the Union soldiers' bodies, who had simply just been thrown into the ground without any grave markings or tombstones, they decided in April not only to unbury them, but to rebury them properly, giving them each tombstones and grave markings. On May 1st, these same freedmen decided to organize a parade and a memorial celebration that would become Memorial Day as we know it today. 10,000 people, most of whom were formerly enslaved Black folks, as well as some white missionaries, decided to gather and march around the area that the soldiers were buried in to honor their legacy and to express their gratefulness for how these soldiers passed away. Now, what's even better is they sang a song called John Brown's Body, which honors the legendary abolitionist John Brown, who was a white man who tried to single-handedly start the Civil War in order to free Black people. After this, in 1868, it was made a national holiday. And when it was made a national holiday, it was in the goal of honoring the Union soldiers. Now, the Confederates in the South decided to declare their own Confederate Memorial Day in 1866. But when we really look at it, the way and the traditions that we honor these and the people who started these traditions were formerly enslaved people. And that's a really beautiful thing to honor. That's all for today. We'll see you later. Come on.
So this story, amongst others, like everyone's doing a video on it. The news is covering it. Like historians are coming out with like, yeah, did you know about Memorial Day? And I was like, no, thank you for telling me, because I grew up in fucking the US where they don't tell us anything. And they try to erase any sort of Black success from any of the stories. And there you go. Another thing that came from Black culture and is erased through white supremacy. And that's the point of this whole conversation. And by the way, chat, I wanted to talk about this even in relation to this topic because, you know, talking to my audience, like, as Chad points out, Jim passed away. If you guys don't know who Jim is, you probably do know who Jim is in our community, because Jim is the person who wrote me that message one time on stream, and I had like a panic attack over it because Jim asked me to help out Anthony in raising money for Lebanon. And Jim passed away, which is just so like, you know, and I think what was so sad about that whole process was that, you know, I was watching Do Not Worry, and Anthony kept saying, man, where's Jim? Where's Jim? And Jim is not a part of the Do Not Worry podcast. He's not a part of my podcast. He's a community member. He's a community member who became so involved in our communities that he became somebody. But you're all somebody. I know that as creatives, we have to put a line in the sand, between us and our audience, but I don't want you to ever take for granted that you matter and that you matter to me. I know Anthony said the same thing to his audience, like you guys matter. And hearing that Jim passed away is just like, damn, bro, not only do you never know, but I think what was so heartbreaking is Anthony kept saying on stream, like, man, I haven't heard from Jim. I keep messaging Jim and why isn't he messaging me back? It's because he died. He passed away. And so they did like a great memorial stream for him yesterday. I stopped by for a bit in the chat and it was just beautiful. It was like a beautiful tribute to a beautiful person from a community perspective. And look, I don't know Jim that well at all, but I didn't have to see the value he was bringing to Anthony's community or to see the value he brought in ours. So the story goes, Anthony learned about me from Jim and I learned about Anthony from Jim. And so because of Jim, Anthony and I made that connection. And then we both found out we're Assyrian and now we're cousins. And this beautiful friendship has started. This perfect little workship has started in like a really lovely way, right? And so in that, this is not just like the internet is a real place. The internet is a real place. We are real people, and so are you. And so when we cover these topics, I do want you to know, even if you are the subject matter of my video, I 100% recognize your humanity. And if we ever could talk it out in a way that is so good faith, I will do that. I am just so used to, as I think many of us are, very bad faith people coming into our chats, making videos about us, and they're not actually looking to have a real discussion. And so I don't ever want that to be the reason I don't build community or the reason I don't continue building these conversations with you. So rest in peace to Jim. Thank you for connecting Anthony and I and bringing our communities together. Thank you for all the times he contributed and super chatted and made the content possible. And thank you to all of you for existing because it really matters to me. And I understand one of the reasons I am terrified of becoming actually like popular is I know I will have to say goodbye. Because you can't do it. You can't do it for your mental health. You can't do it for sustainability reasons. Like, if I became popular, I'd have to create such a distance between us. And it's just like, okay, like that makes me so sad. And I also know that it's a part of the double-edged sword of success. And at the same time, I hope to maintain it for as long as I can. I'll figure out new ways. I'll get around it somehow. So speaking of which, this community member said, hey, I'm not going to lie, you're really losing me up front with minimizing what Koreans think about their own culture. And I said, hey, I really don't know how to make it more clear that I'm not speaking for them. Is there something else I can say to make that clear? I also think I'm confused as well. Koreans in Korea don't necessarily have the US context to understand why this is upsetting to people. We see this sometimes when Africans think they're better than Black Americans or when West Asians who immigrate, my family, think they're better than immigrants. We have intersectionality at play here, and I'm just trying to point it out. Does that make sense? Also, I'm autistic. They said, I don't know. I think you are implicitly speaking on their behalf by being the arbiter of by what is and isn't cultural appropriation of Korean culture. And they said, I think it's possible that there could be a space for that, but we should highlight the opinions of Koreans. I understand intersectionality of Koreans in and out of Korea at play. I said, I can highlight some voices. I'll get ready for stream this week. They give me a heart emoji. And then this person who's been very bad faith in my comment section says, what a disgraceful racist take from a white passing woman. Holy shit. Now the vid people could make on this vile racist take alone. Such and such group of ethnic people don't realize how wrong they are. So I, a white passing woman, will explain it to them. How obtuse. Like, obviously that person is trying to like hurt my feelings and they're not actually trying to engage with me. They keep writing these comments all over my chat and I kept them up to show you guys. But now I'm going to block them. Thank you. Wait, no. Let me make sure I cover all their comments before I block them. But I'm going to block them because they have been deeply cruel and unnecessary. Because again, we have to create a space, period, to talk about what cultural appropriation is without talking on behalf of communities. We have to. Okay? We have to talk about toxic masculinity without talking to men about it. We have to. We have to be able to talk about any of these academic or observational cultural things without needing to, and at the same time we should always highlight voices. So I will always try to do that. Just keep in mind, and maybe this is again going back to what I said earlier, When I say I'm trying to be more professional, it's exactly for this reason. At the end of the day, as much as I would love for you to have good faith in me, you can't. You can't trust me. And you shouldn't. Because who am I? So every time I talk about anything, I'm going to have receipts. Because if I don't have receipts, then this happens. Because even though this is a member, and even though you've been in my community, and even though I would assume you would know that I would never try to speak for Koreans, the assumption is that I'm speaking for Koreans. So, and I think this plays into the ableism of it all, which I talked about last week. I don't know how long I can keep up this work schedule and be that on top of it, which is why I say I don't want to be a Hassan Piker, because the responsibility is too much. I can't physically keep up with it. My body breaks down. I am disabled. So then I'm wondering, okay, how do I make high quality streams every time with receipts? Does that mean I stream one less day? Does that mean I stream only 3 days a week? Like, what does that mean? Because I can't stream at the level I'm streaming and not have days where I'm not perfect. And I've had 2 in the last week and a half that have brought these opinions towards me. Like, Brit, you didn't highlight voices. Brittany, this is ableist. Brittany, this is, and I'm like, okay, I hear you. Materially, I see that. I will work on it. Okay, so don't worry, girls. I have a Korean voice to highlight, specifically a leftist voice, and I agree with his take. So I'll show that in a second. Before I get there, I also want to read some comments. Brittany has become the biggest leftist cliche. She needs to get back to philosophical discussions. Obviously, a bad faith comment, right? Because, thank you, first of all. And then, this is a philosophical discussion. This isn't just internet drama. This is a philosophical discussion using, like, pop culture and trending topics. Okay? Right? So, bad faith comment, but thank you for saying I'm becoming a leftist cliche. Thank you, I think. This person said, I find it really odd that people in your comments, especially who don't know your content, are accusing you of speaking for Koreans. Hold on, let me move it over. When that's essentially what they're saying by it's not cultural appropriation because Korean people liked it. It's assuming that they're not Korean themselves. I'm assuming they're not Korean themselves if they have to say that. What's the point of being a white knight? Okay, and they said, LOL, can they not form their own opinions, or are they just looking for an excuse to defend Trisha? Okay, so then I started to think, okay, this is heavily about Trisha. I know it is. I know it's a bit about defending that Trisha. I know it is, that Trisha Paytas. Because all of these comments were like, you're still judging Trisha. You're judging Trisha. Trisha did this 20 years ago. So this is about Trisha. It's not about Koreans. This is why I say white femmes take over conversations that should be centered around Korean voices. And that's why I went for Trisha Paytas and not Koreans. It's why I didn't make a comment talking about Koreans. I made a video talking about Trisha Paytas. And then I was like, see? Okay. And I did notice that too. I said, I have a deep feeling they just want to support Trisha, or they are conservative or liberals who don't get where I'm coming from a leftist perspective. P.S. I did also notice some had white icons, and I assumed they're white. Because I did see that. I literally clicked on profiles because I tried to do my research, and a lot of the imagery was just white girls doing peace signs in their thumbnails. So then this person says your opinion, in a quotation, your opinion doesn't count because of your political affiliation or your skin color, is what I'm reading. I like your content, but what is happening in this video? Now look at example. Now, I don't know the ethnicity of this person, okay, until the very last comment when I think they're trying to tell me. But look at this comment and tell me what I'm supposed to do with it. So they said, okay, they're saying that I'm saying, oh, your opinion doesn't matter because of your political affiliation and your skin color. And I said, hey, I don't normally care what Nazis and MAGA think about my politics. Is that a real question? Skin color is less the issue and more like the politics that go along with whiteness, which is a framework of white supremacy. So I think you're either bad faith or not a viewer, but pretending to be, which is it. P.S. A lot of new people are finding my content. I'm trying to signal to them that this is a very left space. I'm not interested in making bigots, conservatives comfortable if they aren't going to consider that they might be giving money, might be giving into white supremacy. So if you are really a viewer, you should know this. I wrote view, but you viewer. They said, yeah, real mask off moment. Maybe identity is as deep as your politics are willing to go when met with light and fair criticism. And I said, thank you for making my point. I had a feeling that people who were upset with me were just non-leftist and non-intersectional feminists. I'm aware some leftists like to pretend that identity and bigotry aren't playing a huge role here. Wishing you well, but I'm done engaging. They said, okay, Brittany. And then they used the black emoji facepalm. So I guess they're telling me they're black, right? What am I supposed to do with that whole thing? If a black person, allegedly, is in my chat telling me that identity doesn't play a role, and that race doesn't matter or political affiliation doesn't matter? Are you MAGA? Did you vote Trump? Am I supposed to consider what you're saying because you're black? Or do I have to take into consideration you might be MAGA? You know what I'm saying? So for them to act like, oh, Britney's like, this is so horrible. Britney's judging people on skin color. And again, I don't know if they're black. They're just using a black emoji. A lot of white supremacists use black emojis to pretend they're black. So I don't know if that is I don't know, right? Then this comment says, hey, I'm not speaking for Korean people as she speaks for Korean people. I said, can you please explain how I did that? Do you also watch my content? Because I see your history and it says you've only commented on these videos. Curious why that is. Do you normally go around looking for Trisha videos to defend? Okay, look, I'm being a little petty, okay? It says, then this person, this hater gator, the one I'm going to block, says, you made a whole video about race and you are none of the ones you called out. That's how. You ignored the Korean influencers, K-pop idols, and the other overall reactions from Koreans, even though in my first video, I did highlight a former K-pop star who specifically asked at the end of the video of reviewing Trisha's song, why was this song made? So just for the record. And then they said, how dare you? And then they said exactly non-Korean judges Koreans because they like Westerners, K-pop and Korean, which is appreciated. Okay, then I said, curious, are you leftist by any chance? And I'm trying to ask questions to get people to expose themselves, okay? And they said, I'm trying to understand where you came from or coming from. Are you an intersectional feminist? Which philosophical framework are you coming from? This person said, I just commented because this came up on my feed. I'm no friend of Trisha. I'm not a fan of Trisha. Actually, this is a wake-up call for me to stop clicking on internet non-drama that has come up like this. There are people literally dying. We all need to touch grass. And yes, you spoke for Korean people by dismissing real Koreans' opinions as valid. Who are the Koreans that I'm dismissing? Like, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not talking to any Koreans. I've not spoken to any Koreans. I've not interviewed any Koreans. People in my chat defending Koreans. How do I know you're Korean? If the people in my chat say, Brittany, I'm Asian and I agree with you, wouldn't I go off of those people's opinions? Why would I go off random comments? And also, I did highlight one Korean voice, but here I'll highlight like 6 more today, exactly making my point for me. So again, like what Korean voices am I ignoring, right? And then the person with the black emoji said, what side of the fence they may or may not be, it's just not relevant to what they said. It is literally relevant to what you say. How you vote tells me how much of your opinion I can even listen to. And the fact is, I knew this was happening. I knew this was happening. I knew this was happening. I knew I was not being authentically engaged with. I was being attacked by some group of somebody who was trying to paint themselves like they were better or smarter than me because I'm white. And I'm telling you right now, I know this kind of commentator, okay? So here we go. And I'm saying, again, white is very specific. By the way, white is doing a lot of heavy lifting because let us not pretend that the intersection of my parents being from Iraq, my whole family being from Iraq, us being immigrants, me moving to a different country, like let's not pretend that when you say white and I say white, we're not even saying the same thing. Okay, I will never try to pretend that my whiteness doesn't grant me privilege, but let's be real that there is a intersection here that is also being ignored. And that's why I'm saying, like, are you not thinking about, do I not have, okay, so it's bad faith is what I'm trying to say, okay? Now, here we go.
It is not surprising that Korean creators will get on this app glazing Trisha Paytas' new Korean song, because the K-pop industry, as we know, is already filled with Zionists. So what's another one? Trisha Paytas, she's a proud Zionist. She has been for a while. She dressed up as the IOF for fun. Instead of talking about Trisha Paytas, a white woman who's trying to capitalize off the growing trend of Korean culture, why don't you talk about your own damn sister, Haecho, who this is the second time around that she's been abducted by Israeli forces, and she still does not have her visa that was revoked by the Korean government. Apparently, if you get enough signatures on a petition, they will be forced to hear your case. And the update is that she is back in Korea. Issue of revoking her visa in an attempt to block her from bringing humanitarian aid to Gaza also created a lot of problems for her as she had to navigate throughout Europe as an undocumented migrant. I'm going to leave the link in my bio so you can go sign the petition. I grew up with Trisha Paytas. Trust me, after every single controversy that she's ever been in, she cries, she'll get on a podcast, she'll whisper into your ears, and she'll say, I'm so sorry, and I've learned. And then she'll do another shitty thing. I believe in second chances. I believe in third chances. Honestly, I believe in fourth chances. I believe that people can change. At some point as an adult, you can't fall on the, oh, I was young and I didn't know better.
So much, and you know, you do feel comfortable to a certain extent to make jokes and stuff, and you know, jokes that were okay or funny, you know, 10 years ago just aren't okay or funny now. I understand that. I understand I'm not the one to be making these jokes, you know. I take full responsibility for anyone I've hurt.
2023. So yeah, still a couple hours out from the party.
It is not surprising that Korean creators will
Okay. So again, like he at the end posted Trisha Paytas doing a Israel party in 2023. Like, Trisha wants to do what Trisha wants to do, and they don't want to hear any criticism. And the fact is, I know a lot of people came to my chat to tell me Anita deserved to die, or to tell me that Trisha Paytas did nothing wrong, are people that have no business saying anything out loud. And not because of their racial background, and not because your opinion is cruel and deeply unnecessary, and you're not even serious. Do not seriously come to me and talk about how a 75-year-old woman decided to deserve to die, and then have the audacity to be in my comments about no one said that. No one said she deserved to die. Everybody is saying that. And the ones of us who aren't, look how violent the world is, that you are sitting there watching an old lady get pounded to death, and you're sitting here praising it. Come on now. Okay. Same thing with Trisha Paytas. How many times is Trisha going to do this? I showed you updated versions of them doing cultural appropriation, and it wasn't enough. All of a sudden, because you decided you loved it. Listen, I remember one time my sister was in a social situation, and she was talking to a Jewish guy, and she meets this Jewish guy through her then partner, and he goes, "Oh, are you Jewish?" And she goes, "No, I'm Iraqi. I'm a Syrian." And he goes, "Oh, terrorist." And she didn't think that was fucking funny. And her partner, who was Mexican at the time, I mean, he was Mexican always, but when they were seeing each other, he was like, "It's a funny joke. It's funny." And she's like, "It's not funny. Don't say that to me." And I was like, "Don't say that to her." You know, I was like, listen, she was telling me the story. Don't say that to her. But isn't it interesting that a Jewish guy called an Assyrian a terrorist from Iraq? An Israeli guy, or a Jewish guy, I should say, because I don't think he's from Israel. But I'm just sitting here that's what I'm saying. So when we have these conversations, there is an intersection at play here. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. Don't come into my chat and talk about, oh, how a white woman is just da-da-da-da-da. Okay? As if all of our communities aren't dealing with white supremacist colonizer propaganda. Okay? From whitening your skin, to being as close and adjacent to whiteness as possible, to being quote, the good immigrants versus the bad immigrants. We believe so much the propaganda that has been literally thrown at us for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, that we're not even close to deconstructing it. So you know what I mean? For those of us you might call sensitive, or, oh, you're so woke, you're so sensitive, because we know where it leads. It leads to where we are now and where we've always been. Next person.
Who thinks Trisha am I the only one who thinks Trisha Paytas making a K-pop song right now is so weird when you look at the bigger picture? And before you try telling me, oh, but she made the song because her daughter likes K-pop, which little kid doesn't like K-pop right now? Have y'all seen the charts for K-pop Demon Hunters? And that is my personal issue with the song, because it doesn't feel like appreciation to me, but more like fetishization. Trisha Paytas has literally criticized and made racist comments about Asian people before. She mocked Asian accents and used racist language and stereotypes in her old tweets and videos. And when someone with a history like that suddenly jumps into K-pop when it's trendy, of course I'm going to question whether it's genuine or performative. People need to realize that K-pop isn't just some harmless costume you can put on because it's trending. K-pop comes from real artists, real culture, real language, and real people who already deal with being fetishized in Western countries. Why is it always, I love Asian culture, until it comes to respecting Asian people beyond the aesthetic? And the timing makes it even more performative, because K-pop is more profitable than ever right now. You can enjoy K-pop without turning East Asians into just a trend, but that's a conversation most of you guys aren't ready for. Am I the only one?
Okay, next.
By singing a song fully. Trisha Paytas knew that she would make money by singing a song fully in Korean. And it's working. People are taking notice. Koreans are praising her. But did she really have to do this during our month? With all the other weird stuff happening in the Asian community? And it's sending me because she is a white woman. I know she's 18% Moroccan, but she largely moves through the world as a white woman. She is a white woman who has been caught saying the N-word. Brush that off. And she's adding an extra...
No. Not to correct her. Not even caught. It wasn't a caught. she wasn't caught. Trisha fully did it with her full chest. That it wasn't even caught. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't like she was secretly recorded. Trisha posted the video, edited the video, and put it on YouTube multiple times.
Extra step to the Korean pop machine's usual cultural appropriation. K-pop in its usual form is Korean people cosplaying white American people who are cosplaying black American people. But now she's a white American person cosplaying those Korean people and then, you know, starting the whole cycle from there. I don't even know whether to call this cultural appropriation of an Asian culture, because that itself was a cultural appropriation of black culture. I'd feel better about it if she were black, because that could almost be as clever as a Drewski skit. But she is not. She is mostly Hungarian and Eastern European, profiting off of Korean people who have profited off of black people. And this makes sense for her because she has been caught doing racist things in the past. K-pop stars in Korea have also been caught doing extremely racist things. I should probably compile all my videos about this into a playlist, like the BTS people, the people caught saying the N-word in a song. And the fact that Koreans are largely praising her is absolutely sending me. I'm not Korean, I'm Chinese. We're not as popular as Koreans, but I know that if some white person did this with like C-pop, we would have the same reactions as the Koreans. Maybe we'd clown them just a little more because Chinese people don't give a fuck. But yeah, praising someone for speaking like the bare minimum of your native language when they're white and then treating them totally different when they do the same thing, but they're darker, that's weird. I don't really listen to K-pop, so I wouldn't be even listening to any songs that are competing with this anyway, like any of the stuff that Trisha Paytas is trying to imitate. I prefer listening to the genres that started all of this and my yearning, angsty C-pop music. Okay, good night. Trisha Paytas knew that.
Now, look, I understand, okay? And I've got a lot of TikToks here. I've got a lot of TikToks from a lot of different people. I'm just trying to highlight a similar criticisms. I'm trying to highlight, okay, I want to highlight this as well. So off of her TikTok, which she makes a great point about the money-making section. I want to highlight this because I tried to highlight it in my last one, but this makes it abundantly clear. Here is Trisha and Moses themselves having the conversation of Trisha getting on the K-pop charts, right? So again, Trisha is not an artist-singer. Trisha is a person who I don't know how to explain to people the differences. You know what? Okay, here's what bothers me about Trisha. They skip the line a lot. While people are hustling and working on it and working so fucking hard to be taken seriously, Trisha skips the line into SNL, skips the line into the K-pop charts, skips the line into fucking everything because you guys think she's funny. And it's really frustrating for that not to like be annoying to people who are working so fucking hard to be taken seriously as artists and creatives. For Trisha, who literally says she's just having fun. Okay, yeah, she cosplays art. Thank you, chat. Trisha cosplays art. And it's very fucking annoying to me because the only reason it works is capitalism. You know, I went to the Andy Warhol Museum and I bought a postcard from Andy Warhol, who's a piece of trash. But he said, art is what you make them believe it is. Those are capitalistic artists. That's what Trisha is. Okay? Okay? So here's the example of that, going off that last TikTok into this TikTok, okay?
I think he'll get you to the K-pop charts.
Wow.
Really? I think you'll get to the K-pop charts.
On where? Billboard?
It's K-pop charts on Twitter.
Oh,
they have like over 1 million followers.
Oh.
I would. People say, anyway, I'm looking into it. I'm looking to see what's happening before.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm very excited about this. This is all really new to me. I don't have time to tweet about any drama when I'm in. If a K-pop drama wants my song, though, let me know because I'm down to have it in a show.
Let me see. Let me check.
I do love a K-drama.
Because they were saying like your song on iTunes was charting.
What? Oh my gosh. What if I get like a #1 with this? It's going to be so exciting. The Grammy may not be far off.
Tomorrow you're in full K-pop.
I might be. Oh my God. Me in England just trying to record this. Oh my God. This is very exciting. And I get to perform it live in a week. This is really exciting stuff. Maybe the only time I perform it live is in England. So you might want to see it. The orchestra has been practicing it. They've been like doing the K-pop version in violins. This is very exciting. Wow.
And when I do look at your song, then below it has the top albums in K-pop. So iTunes is definitely has you in the right
I did have to pick a subcategory. When you submit it, it's like pop, and then it asks if you want to do like dance pop, and I finally got to put like K-pop in this one. So maybe it'll be
trying to get you to the K-pop chart.
Exactly. Chet says Trisha falls forward. what makes it discouraging for anyone. Yeah, I think Trisha falls forward, and who's the other one? There's another one that they always feel forward, and it's so fucking annoying to see because they should have never been successful, but they are. Oh, who is it? It's a boy, I think. Oh, my partner and I are always talking about this too, but I can't remember who it is. But that experience of always failing forward is like, you know what? It's so fucking annoying. Yeah, Trump does too. Trump is a great example. Okay. Now, for the record, I can't play this because of copyright, but allegedly people are saying that Trisha's song is either AI or stolen from a Korean artist, possibly.
Trisha Paytas song reminds them of IU, so I made this so that you didn't have to.
Okay, so then you can see here when the sound music is over it, it's like nearly the same. And so there is some conversation going around about that possibility. Okay, so just keep that in mind that a lot of people did have a lot of like, what's going on with this? Now, I don't know, but I'm just saying.
YouTuber, obviously, she is releasing a Korean album.
What?
Like the next month or something. I think that's going to be everywhere eventually.
See, is that okay?
See, that is like borderline. I
Because
don't know.
why does it have to be in Korean?
Well, she's been like in her Korean era, she's been saying.
Okay, see,
Like, here we were so upset with Ariana, but don't you see how Trisha's doing the same thing? Ariana, if you ever go back and watch those Ariana with her black scent and then her like different ethnicities, it is absolutely the weirdest thing to watch now. All these years later, you're just like, I mean, it was weird then, but it's like very weird now. And that's what I'm saying. Like, why does Trisha get away with it? Not that maybe that's why she was at the Wicked premiere. Maybe that's what she's doing. Maybe she's pulling an Ariana. I mean, a lot of people do. It's not the first time. It is not the first time that people have done this.
So she's posting TikToks, like learning Korean, teaching her kids Korean.
Teaching her kids Korean?
Yes, and then
Bruh.
she fully recorded and is releasing a Korean album.
But doesn't her husband have culture?
I mean... yeah.
Yeah, Billy's another example as well. Used to have a black scent. Okay, look at this.
I was like, hey, do you know anyone in like K-pop? And I figured he does because he has like a studio, and he knew Alex, who wrote the song Alex Wright, and he was like so kind to be like, here's like a few songs we have, and I got to listen to maybe like 20 different K-pop songs, and this one my girls immediately were like dancing to, like even they like know the song. But last night Elvis was like more mommy, and they like sing the song. And so I knew when they played this one, I had, like I said, probably like 20 songs I could listen to. When I played this one for them and they like liked it and danced to it immediately, I was like, this is the hit. So shout out again, Alex, for not only writing and producing it, but also being in the studio with me and was being so sweet. You know, when you learn a new language from scratch, Nara Smith over here, like when you learn a new language, like totally just cold. I didn't know how to count to 10 in Korean before this. I did know a little Korean prior because I did take some Taekwondo. Hana, dul, set, net, asa, yoku, like I did know a little Korean, but that's about it. So when you go into a language from scratch, like again, and I didn't know him, I only knew him through Jaime. He was so sweet, and he was just so, I don't know, when I was recording it, he kept like smiling, and I was like, are you sure it's okay? He's like, it sounds like a little kid like trying to like learn language in like in a good way. And so he was just like appreciative that I like wanted to learn. He was super sweet to like teach me like cadence and all the stuff like that, because it's just like a lot of languages, like
It's hard to teach somebody a new language.
And
okay, some other thoughts from random TikTokers that I thought would be interesting to get their opinion.
This song having more Korean than other modern K-pop songs is something. And her bottom, like her pronunciation is actually not that bad. Like, Kitty, take a note. Trisha Paytas.
So I think one of the dilemmas I'm seeing from people too is like, I do think this is a move of white supremacy, of being impressed when white people speak a language. And I do think there's a place we could meet where we can be compassionate and excited that somebody's learning our language and be like, oh my God, that's so nice. And also when you actually research into a lot of these quote polyglots, which we'll talk about with Chelsea Fagan, a lot of them are actually like bullshit. So there's one guy in particular who's kind of famous on TikTok, and he goes around claiming he can speak everyone's language, but the people he's talking to are humoring him, because one of the guys who speaks another language, when he watches him speak to other people, he's like, oh my God, that's amazing. But when they spoke his language, he's like, what the fuck are you saying? They're humoring this guy, but then TikTok makes it look like he's actually talking to them, but they're just like, oh, that's nice. Like, you can say hi. And like, oh, you know? And that's why I'm like, this is a tool of white supremacy to give credit to people. And then they go make millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars off of learning some words. But again, like some people are like, oh, so you're hating on Trisha for learning the language. Never. I would never hate on anyone for learning a language. Love that for you. Why are you learning the language? Because why matters. Whether we like it or not, everything we do matters. So why are you learning the language? Okay, here's somebody that was more nice to Trisha, thinks she's an icon, that the original person that I showed you was critical of. So I'll show you his just for balance.
Talking about
They said a round of applause for Trisha. Hold on, it's kind of loud.
That's because I've been moving countries, so it's been a bit hectic, but we can't not talk about Trisha Paytas's new K-pop song, 사랑해. As a South Korean person who has grown up with K-pop and genuinely loves K-pop so much, I think that Trisha Paytas's 사랑해 is unironically so good. I'm not kidding. I think in 2026, she released a K-pop song that is more authentic to the K-pop sound than actual K-pop groups that are coming out today. Her pronunciation is not perfect, but it's pretty good, and it's definitely better than...
I just hit me why I'm annoyed with this. Trisha didn't write the song. It's not her song. We should be giving the credit to the Korean or assumed Korean person who wrote the song that Trisha talks about. That's what's pissing me off. Why are you giving any of the credit to Trisha? It's not her song. She just sang it. Do you know what I'm saying? Why is Trisha getting any of the social credit for anything? That's what it is. It's not her song. She's not an artist. She's just playing dress up.
둘이 진짜 완벽한 커플이에요, EXO Kitties, you know? And the fact that a white woman, Trisha Paytas, has more Korean in her K-pop song than actual Korean artists who can speak Korean fluently, I think K-pop artists should be kind of embarrassed. This song deserves all the recognition that it's getting, and I really want to give Trisha Paytas her flowers. And the fact that she did this for her kids because they love K-pop.
Oh, that is such a fucking lie. So people in my chat, that angry person that I'm going to block was like, you're so parasocial. You're so parasocial not to realize that Trisha's doing this for her kids. I was like, she is not doing this for her kids, bro. Look, this one right here. It says, this is some of the most obvious cultural appropriation I've ever seen. LOL, it's not even that kind that comes with misguided, ignorant admiration for the culture. It's literally indistinguishable from mockery. They said the fact that they can't see it as mockery is racist in of itself. The fact that you see it as mockery is racist itself. She wrote it for her kids. And I said, hey, I think buying into the story that about her kids is falling for a scam she tells people so they don't cancel her. I don't think it's true. And even if it is, it doesn't change the issue. I'm not sure why people think it does. Then this person I'm going to block right now says, what a ridiculous parasocial take. Okay, first of all, hide you from channel. Bye. Oh, disappeared into the ether. What the fuck do her kids have to do with anything? Why is this working for people? Why does this work for people? I don't get it. Are you allowed to do racist shit or bad shit because your kids want you to? I don't get it. Why is that working? I don't understand why that's working. Okay, next person who was nice to Trisha.
안녕하세요. It's your new bias, Trisha Uni. I have a new song, 사랑해. I hope you listen to it. 좋아해요?
The main reason Trisha Paytas is blowing up is not just because she's singing a K-pop song. Even K-pop songs don't have that much Korean these days. It's mainly because her pronunciation, her Korean pronunciation, is on point. Immediately right off the bat, she says 어둠 밤.
Okay, I can't play it because I'm gonna get copyrighted, of course. But you know, it's the glazing. And I'm like, is it that good? Now, here's how I want to end this particular section because I think it's important. Going back to the original creator that I highlighted, who's leftist, okay? There was a thing that happened on Asian TikTok that I stayed away from and did not comment on. Elliot Sang did, if you want to go watch Elliot Sang talk about it. And it was the whole white people shopping at Asian marts. I've shopped at Asian marts my whole life. I have nothing but good things to say. And I stayed out of this conversation because I knew it wasn't my place to talk about it. So I didn't. Okay, but I was watching all the TikToks and I was very much following everything that was happening. And it is highlighted in this TikTok that is not related to Trisha, but related to whiteness and also like propaganda from white supremacy that plays into why we're hesitant about Trisha, as we should be. So let's watch this, okay?
In my belief that we should treat people for, who they are, not what they are. And I think that curiosity should be met with guidance and not with shame. And I know that I'm an old bird, but I still want to learn things, and I still want to, understand things on a level that is, outside of just whatever my perspective is. And sure, my platform, I most likely will continue to talk shit about people who are, behaving like a bunch of assholes. But I have to still hold on to the belief that, we can bring people together. And I love to think that food is a great way to.
This was the apology that Sujia just issued on her page in response to the side-eyeing H Mart Gate incident. And
okay, so if you guys don't know, that was the hashtag. P.S. Welcome to new members. I just saw this Big City Kitty. Love you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Loosely use the term apology because I don't consider this an apology. I know she's trying to rationalize her thinking and explain nuance to people who might have missed it. And she's speaking as a mother, so I'm going to speak as a son. Because I do think that I have conversations, and I had mentioned before that this is a generational issue. And I understand when my parents say that as Asians coming to this country and we're foreigners and we have been treated poorly in the past, that it might seem like the best option for us to assimilate and be extra welcoming to white people. That seems to be the stance that a lot of older creators, especially Korean creators, have on this app because they think that that's going to get us somewhere. When in reality, just a couple years ago, what did we see during COVID? Sujia's content exists as a very quick cathartic release for a lot of white people to see that, oh, as long as I'm not this type of white person, the one that goes into a restaurant and says my food is stinky or Asian food is stinky, or they go into a grocery store and start making fun of the labels, then I'm okay. I'm a clear, good white person. And what I don't understand is that in this apology, there's no mention of the consequences of her platform. She doesn't address the various videos that white people made in response to that incident, where they purposely went to H Mart to make a nuisance of themselves and to invade a space that they previously had no interest in. She has no mention of that, even though there were thousands of comments and hundreds of videos made where white people did that. The disappointing part of this apology, in my opinion, is that she is still doubling down on her position. And so that's why when she says that I'm trying to learn and grow and issue this apology, I don't think you are. Because if you're going to say that I'm going to continue to make these type of contents and be a beacon for white people, like, oh, don't make fun of our food, but not understand the nuance of why we have cultural spaces in the beginning, why it's important to protect monolithic cultural spaces, that we don't always have to dilute it with foreigners, you won't take it one step further to understand why people will side-eye someone. You continue to preach that we should be accepting of people, like this Eat, Pray, Love journey. You've learned nothing then. To start off this apology by saying that the internet lost the nuance of your take, the internet did not lose nuance of your take. In fact, they read it pretty well. We said that you had a white husband and Asian kids, and therefore you were biased as an older Korean woman, and you wanted to promote assimilation. That is the read that most of the creators got on this app and stated very clearly. And you, in your response, are saying that I felt isolated as a kid growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, and you feel like this is what you want now. You want people to celebrate your culture. What nuance did we miss? Trying to hate on Sujia too much. I have enjoyed some of her content, but I'm just going to say, you're a larger creator, you have impact on people, you took a video that was not viral, and you used it as part of your arsenal, where you continue to be the same beacon towards white people, even though you claim you're not white pandering, but realistically, I mean, if you show your demographic, I'm sure it's mostly white people. You want to stay in the same lane of creating content where white people will look for validation, look for other examples of bad white people. And that's fine. If that's how you want to continue in this space as a content creator, you'll continue to do it. But to issue an apology and say that you want to grow and learn and state no reasons of what you've learned or grown about this, and instead just give a strong defense of why you created that video, is very disappointing.
I stand firm in my.
So this is not unique to this bubble alone. I see it in my own Assyrian bubble as well, where, you know, I remember, this is so kind of stupid, but when Britney Spears' Toxic came out, I remember like all the Assyrians were like, she's using like Arabic tones and, oh, this is like Arabic inspired. Oh, this is Arab. And I was just like, and like my parents were like, oh, it's kind of a inappropriate music video because we're Catholic, but oh, look, this is the sound. This is the sound. And I was like, look, I love Britney down. I love Britney so aggressively, but relax, okay? Relax. And I think older generations, because they want to assimilate, because they so terribly want to be accepted by whiteness and be real Americans, they just will take absolutely anything and be like, oh my God. And I'm like, I guess, you know what I mean? Like, okay, thanks for the absolute bare minimum. And younger generations are just like, and now what? And that's it. That's, you know, that's really my summary of this whole situation. Okay. Now, this is just the racial component, because again, I, as the creator, have got to figure out as I get more popular how to balance like really bad fucking shit I have to see and then block compared to the really genuine creator, the commenters. So guys, just as a community, I'm asking you to do me a favor. If you are good faith, please make that clear to me in the comments. Do whatever it takes. Hashtag tonality genuine. Just say, Brit, I really mean this. Please let me know. I'll do my best to respond on stream. I'll do my best to give you your time as much as I can, because listen, when a good faith conversation happens, I live for it. Sometimes I get off stream so pumped, so excited, so stoked. And I tell my partner, like, fuck, my job is so cool, bro. I just talked to the coolest people. And I love the conversations, and they really challenged me today. But it's obvious. I know people say it all the time, but I'll say it again. Like, anybody who's worked any job where you're getting a lot of feedback, it's really hard to decipher. Like, is this genuine, or should I block this person? And then people will say, oh, Brittany blocked me because this. Oh, Brittany blocked me because of this. I don't know you. And so you're doing this thing where like you come at me so hard on my comments, like, oh, this racist white lady. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden, it's like, you know, I get it. You don't have to trust me. If you are new to my content and you think I'm just a racist white lady, I mean, fair. A lot of white ladies are racist. But if you are somebody who goes, I watch Brittany's content, then act like it. Give me some fucking good faith. Because damn, you know what I mean? It's a two-way street. Either this is a community or it's not, but I understand. But being in communion with exists everywhere. Like, when you're walking to your local mart, you don't have to know the people in the store to be in community with them. You're in community with them when you are nice to them in the aisles, when you move the cart out of the way, when you put it back in its place, when you say, hi, how are you? I'm good, how are you? Like, that is community at a superficial but very important social level. And that's what's kind of happening here, though I would argue we go a barrier lower, we go a little deeper, okay? Because I'm reading your comments and I'm responding. And we're having very serious, uncomfortable conversations. So give me good faith, I'll give you good faith. But to everybody else, if I see any ounce of racism, bigotry, transphobia, any fucking bad attitude, bad faith, blocked. Period. And I don't unblock. So tread lightly. Tread lightly. Okay? I'm fucking done with that topic. I'm going to transition to Chelsea Fagan in just a second. But let me read this super chat. Let's also take a 2-minute break. Your K Comrade, thank you so much for the super chat. Says subbed from your TFD upload. Chelsea has rubbed me the wrong way since she reviewed the La Lurich doc and came off so judgmental of the victims of the pyramid schemes. I've never heard anyone articulate my discomfort the way you did. Oh my God, I love that. And also, I didn't hear about this. What? Honestly, guys, like, I won't. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about it. Thank you for that super chat. Yeah, I have so many thoughts on the things that I want to talk about in regards to Chelsea. And then I need to get off because I need to finish my commentary video about, can you be a good person and rich? Or is philosophical evil the only way to go viral? Even when you're doing it for a good cause. We'll talk about that when I get back. This comment says, as a child of immigrants, we learned we deserve to be in a space, not just be grateful like the older folks. Exactly. Exactly. You said there's a point where gratefulness can become bootlicking. 1000%. And that's why I'm trying so hard to break some generational curses in my family. I'm trying so hard to say, do you know, guys, just for a little fucking lore in my bubble, just for a little fucking lore into the Assyrian bubble, let me introduce you. I watch Assyrian YouTube as well, and Assyrian TikTok, of course. And so we're Chaldeans if you're Christian Catholic, and then there's Orthodox, and then there's all these like groups, and then we're ethnically Assyrian. There is arguments in our communities. Our elders won't identify as Assyrian because they think it's Arab, because Assyrians are Arabs in Iraq. And they're like, we're not Arab, we're Chaldean. I was like, oh my God, fucking relax. Okay, Arab, Assyrian, Chaldean, you guys are acting like There is so much fucking issue in our own community. That's why young Chaldeans try to always say we're Assyrian. That's why I started saying I was Assyrian, because I was raised saying we're not Assyrian, we're Catholic, or we're Chaldean. I was like, aren't we Assyrian though? Isn't that my ethnicity? No. Those are Arabs. Are we Arab? Are we not? It's because Assyrians speak Sudith and Arabs speak Arabic, but my dad reads and writes Arabic. My grandpa reads and writes Arabic because they were born in Baghdad, because they lived in Baghdad. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know why you're playing these fucking games. You know what I mean? Anyways, okay. All of our communities have shit to unpack is what I'm trying to say. And you know what I mean? Nobody gets to be exempt in that regard, okay? All right. I'll be right back. I'll play some Elvin for you. That way it doesn't accidentally skip to a YouTube video. I gotta figure that out, why I keep fucking up on that. I'll be right back. All right, part 2. Let me pull up the tech stuff. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, you can find Elvin's music linked in the description. Very talented artist. Here we go. Let's see. Okay. Let me double check. There's no update to this. Whoopsies. Oops. Let me just double check. Hold on. Okay, just an update. Un momento. Da, 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 da. Let me see. Oh, I can't wait for you. Oh, I can't wait to read this to you. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna get into it, bro. I'm gonna get into it. Gonna get into it. Okay. So let me just double check here. Okay. So I'll leave this alone. We'll start here. Okay. Okay. Oh, Chad says, do you take fan art asking for a friend? Yes, I save. First of all, I've saved, when I used to have a PO box, I have everything absolutely saved that anyone has ever sent me. 2, I not only keep all the fan art, though I do sometimes forget to write down the artist's name. So sometimes I have fan art that I'm like, who made this? Anyways, I love the fan art. I think it's so nice and so sweet. And I just think it's such a nice gesture. And I appreciate it. And you're so talented and I love that. Thank you. Okay. Okay, this is such a hard topic for me because I like Chelsea Fagan. And as I say that, it sucks to fall out of love with the creator, but it also sucks to just have the realization that you did not find a leftist femme presenting how to be successful in capitalism without selling out. Because, and I'm not saying Chelsea sold out, but I'm saying that what's hard to watch is somebody who is in so many ways in your intersection with you, you know, neurodivergent woman, you know, felt like she struggled but found success. Like there's a lot of intersections there that could be really great. And then to find out and have the realization that, oh, like, yeah, I'm outgrowing content that I don't want to outgrow. Like, look, I watch a lot of people that I very much disagree with because there is something I can get out of everyone's content, but I don't want to promote them. And I think the dilemma is like, I usually promote Chelsea Fagan. I'm usually like, go watch Chelsea, love the. But now I feel kind of not good about it. And I think I'm allowed to not feel good about it. Now, in the same way that I criticized Taylor Lorenz as an example, and Taylor came back to my comment section and like wrote that big comment. We went back and forth. I'm open for the same thing to happen with Chelsea. I still watch Taylor with an eyebrow raised, but I'm willing to be good faith enough to say, okay, Taylor heard me out. She listened to the criticism. And not that it's about, oh, you have to listen to Britney's criticism. It's about the fact that she saw it and did something about it that I think is commendable. Because I know as a creative how hard it is to get on this app and not want to be like very upset with not feeling seen or understood, which I don't want to make Chelsea feel like. And also, I don't know how else to do this because I don't think I should have the place. Like some people will say, oh, you should slide into people's DMs and talk to them that way. But like, how weird would it be if we just started sliding into each other's DMs? Like, hey, I hate the way you do your job. Like, don't you think that's fucked up? I would rather somebody make a video about me personally than slide into my DMs. Now, if we have rapport, if we know each other, if we're friends of friends, sure, slide into my DMs. Like if you're somebody that I've either showed up in your chat or we've had contact, for sure, slide into my DMs. But just showing up cold turkey in someone's DMs and being like, hi, I don't like the way you're doing this, feels very fucking weird. So I would never think to do that. You know what I mean? So check out this comment because I think it sets into motion every problem I'm going to have moving forward with the way you guys give criticism, not my audience, but people who don't know me very well. And this is the example I want to use. This person said, for the record, all the comments I am seeing on Chelsea's video are positive and congratulating her. Are you sure the criticism is as bad as you say it is? Because I don't see it. Mind you, this person had been watching my content and timestamping every few minutes to tell me their thoughts. And the last timestamp they had, right? I don't see it, right? Was this timestamp. Why this is making people upset. Like, I feel like it makes perfect sense that some people are like, girly, what is this video? Right? Now, let me just read you some of the comments so you have some of the idea of what people were upset about, because I think it really like changes the conversation. Let me bring this up because she knew people were going to have a problem with this, but I really don't think she really understands why. And so let me pull this up for you. Let me just show it to you. These are saved comments that I shared with my Discord, so I don't have to scroll through her comment section to try to find them. This is the one that I think is really good. It says, "Hey, I'm happy for you. However, the feedback you're receiving is a reflection of the content you put out. You spend a lot of time criticizing wealthy people like yourself for achieving exactly the level of privilege you clearly have. You dictate how much money other wealthy people should be allowed to have and what luxuries are too ostentatious for a person to have. It's not a surprise that the mirror is being turned back on you. Congratulations. It's always amazing to see another woman accomplish a dream/goal." Pause. Current Britney talking. That's this person's timestamp. They timestamped just before I showed receipts. And then here's the irony. Somebody in my comment section, Usagi, that's why you're the queen of the moon, said, "I'm assuming based on the novel comment Chelsea wrote on the OG video, there were negative comments. Maybe she's deleting them." I literally highlighted for you Chelsea herself not only preemptively defending herself, but also her pinned comment. And then you have the audacity to come into my chat and be like, "Hey, Britney, are you fucking making this shit up?" This is bad faith. I literally give you receipts. Even when Chelsea herself says it, you come into my chat and say, "Hey, I'm not seeing this. Are you like making shit up?" That's fucked up. That's so fucked up. And that's exactly why people screenshot comments. That's exactly why we screenshot things, because the way you so easily have decided. And this thing happened to me before when I said, I was commenting on another trans person's videos and I said, people are being transphobic to them in the comments. And then I tried to scroll to find some, but they were gone. And people were like, liar, liar. You didn't even have proof. And then I had to show them screenshots I saved to send to my Discord. And I said, "Here, stupid. You guys do this thing where you think I'm making shit up because you make shit up. You're literally making shit up in my comments right now. And so you think I'm making shit up. I don't have to make shit up. The world is crazy enough, Habibi. The world is crazy enough. I don't have to make anything up." Next comment. "She never said she was a leftist. She's not a political channel. She's a financial advice channel, hence the name Financial Diet. You're telling on yourself. Your envy is showing." I said she's very political on her channel and on her TikTok. Finances are political. I don't know any financial channel that doesn't talk about policy and politics as it directly relates to money. She was political in this literal video. This person goes back and forth with my chat, and even my chat was exhausted by the time they were engaging with this person. Look, my chat's like, "Bro, you sound confused, bro." And like, okay. But the craziest part they wrote is like, how is her buying a house contradictory to what she preaches on her channel? She's not anti-home ownership and has never been. We all live in a capitalist manner, you included. It's the framework of our society and none of us can escape it. Okay, right? So then I say, "Hey, I don't know why you're holding me to Chelsea's like values." I said, "Why aren't you understanding that Chelsea and I have different values? You keep trying to hold me to her values. I don't want to own a company or be a CEO," because what they wrote to me up here was, are you ready for this? "Chelsea is doing better than most of us. Her company provides 7 people, some with kids, jobs. She runs it in a pro-worker populist philosophy that she portrays herself to be. How many people does Britney employ with all her morality and grandstanding? She says she makes more than the average Croatian, but makes up for it for attending rallies. That's funny to me. Chelsea puts her money where her mouth is." I think Britney's just jealous because despite similar socioeconomic backgrounds, Chelsea has found a way to live it and a life she wants in alignment with the politics she holds realistically, as anyone in her situation can do. Okay? And it's like, what? Okay, then, hold on. Okay, this one, look, this one here, they go, I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. They said, "I am not holding you to her values. You don't have to employ anyone to change the world around you. I'm simply asking you how you have directly changed anyone's life by your values. Have you opened up your home to some homeless people around you? Since you make more than the average Croatian, do you give away any excess above average to someone less fortunate than you every month? Just give an example of what you directly are doing to impact other people's lives. I can name several that Chelsea does." I think you're missing the point that I have no excess funds. I don't own a home. Chelsea owns 2. I don't make 6 figures. Chelsea makes $250,000. I have no excess funds. I'm paying off medical debt right now. I have no excess funds. If I'm lucky, I'll have some money for retirement. I have no excess funds. The only people I can guarantee housing to is family and friends that I've already offered them places because that's our community. Why would I, what are you talking about? The fact that they're acting like I have excess funds is the misconception. Now, Chelsea and I both grew up middle class, and I am still middle class, and Chelsea is upper middle class. But Chelsea also is still deconstructing not growing up. Like, okay, I found this TikTok because I was thinking like, Chelsea keeps saying she grew up poor. Okay, I used to say this too because I used to think that I was poor because my parents didn't buy us name brand things and I had hand-me-downs my whole life and they didn't buy their first house till 40. My dad made 6 figures with 10 kids. He had a Mercedes and we had a 2-car family. And we lived in the suburb of Orange County. The house was $280,000, but it was still Orange County. Do you know what I mean? It took me a long time to deconstruct that I didn't grow up poor because I thought poor was me in comparison to my upper middle class friends. But you know what's funny? My upper middle class friends felt poor next to their wealthy friends. That's why Chelsea does this thing where she's like, look, it's expensive to some, but not to others. And I had to deconstruct all of that to realize like, oh, I didn't grow up poor. I grew up middle class, maybe not even lower middle class. Okay, I grew up middle class. And it took a long time for me to deconstruct that away from the hand-me-downs and the da-da-da-da. Because, you know, my bestie grew up with her college paid for, her car paid for, vacations every year to Europe. Girl, like that was so far from my reality that I thought, oh, I must know what poor is. And I think Chelsea's still in that bubble where she grew up middle class. And so she doesn't know that she's not poor or didn't grow up poor. Okay, here's an example.
I mean, like, my parents are comfortable.
One thing no one tells you about growing up poor is even if you one day earn good money, you will spend your adulthood feeling completely gaslit by people who obviously grew up wealthy, but genuinely think that they were middle class. Because for people who grew up like going to summer sleepaway camp or like having international family vacations every year or expecting their parents to help them with a down payment on a house, like they really do think that's how people grow up.
Pause. Exactly. Chelsea grew up middle class like I did. I thought you grew up poorer than I did. This whole time, I thought she grew up poorer than I did. And then I'm rewatching this content. I'm like, girl, you grew up middle class like I did. Yes, our parents are not going to pay for a down payment. Yes, our parents did not have international vacations. Yes, our parents did not have these things. But my parents had a lot of privileges being middle class that we took for granted because we were comparing ourselves to people who made even more money without all of the issues that our parents struggled with, right? So I understand this is a part of middle classness we need to deconstruct because when you're a certain level of middle class, guys, you're too poor to have anything and you're too rich to have any of the help. And like you don't get the same financial aid help. None of my siblings had financial aid basically because our parents made too much, right? Even though my parents could not help with college for most of us, that's why most of us didn't go to college. Okay. We didn't have dental insurance growing up because our parents made too much, but they didn't make enough to get us all the proper dental care as consistently as we needed. And so when you go through that it's like you're in the middle. I call it being a middle child. I am medium traumatized. That's why I always try to explain to people, I am medium traumatized. And when you're medium traumatized, you're like, you struggle, but you're privileged. It's a very weird, and then you always feel like, it's not enough. You're never enough. Okay. So
like they think that that's the average American experience and you'll be at a job earning the exact same amount as that person. And yet your lifestyles will be completely different. And on some level, they'll think that's a you problem because the nature of generational wealth and how it filters into a person's life, even long after they've left the house, is that it creates a kind of invisible force field. And if you've lived in that your whole life, it's almost impossible to imagine a world without it.
Right. Okay. Like even me right now, I am kind of secretly thinking about, I'm considering going back to school. And now we're just thinking about how to pay for it. And that's why it's a couple years off. Nobody talked to me about it. I don't want your advice. I'm overwhelmed already trying to learn a new language. I'm too overwhelmed with everything I'm doing. But in the future, if I want to seriously go back to school, all of that money that I was planning to save for retirement is now going towards an education that I'm hoping will give me the tools I need to be better at my job to make enough money to retire. Like, it's a very confusing construct that I'm dealing with. I don't need your advice. Please don't overwhelm me with helpful advice. Thank you. I'm not ready to do the research. I'm not ready for it. So when we have these conversations, it's like, she bought a second house for $1 million. And I was thinking, girl, you don't have a college degree. Go back to college. Do you know what I mean? Go back to school. It's interesting that Chelsea always talks about how she never graduated college because she grew up too poor, but she spent $1 million on a second house instead of going to college. It's just interesting. You know, it's just interesting. Okay, right? Thank you guys for the support. I appreciate it so much. I don't know. I'm very overwhelmed thinking about working full-time and going to school, which I'll have to do, by the way. I will have to work full-time and go to school. So I'll figure it out. I don't know. Anyways, okay, that sounds stressful. So, Chelsea, let me go back to this comment here. Okay, great comment. I want to highlight it because it's a good comment. Says, I think she keeps bringing it up because most of the people in her sphere seem to already have children. So she may be feeling a pressure to over-explain why she's doing with this time. Because I kept saying, why does Chelsea keep bringing up that she doesn't have kids? What does that have to do with anything? And then they said, I find myself falling into that trap sometimes too. I do too as an autistic woman. I over-explain fucking everything. I'm doing it right now probably. They go on to say she's absolutely doing everything right by capitalism standards. Something about the way you said that really clicked for my brain. I think it could be helpful to take the lesson here of if one doing everything perfectly by capitalism standards, then how much does their life truly reflect anti-capitalist values? That's all I'm asking. A great comment. That's all I'm asking. I'm just saying, if walk like duck, quack like duck, if not duck, it not duck. And they're saying, no, it not duck, it goose. And I'm like, duck, goose, tomato, 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 tomato. You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? And so I'm just asking questions. I don't have the answers. Chelsea keeps saying, oh, I'm so transparent. I'm so transparent. I'm so transparent. Okay, well then why do I have 20 questions? I got questions. Okay. This comment here made me laugh too. I'm sorry. Chad says, this person says people are always shocked that I've never been outside the US, but it's like, I can't even afford a vacation here, much less outside the US. Thanks for throwing it in my face. Literally. You know why? Can I explain something to you? In the 90s and 2000s, it was a part of America exceptionalism that you never needed to leave America because like fuck other countries. So there's a part of my family that brags about never needing a passport because they're never leaving the land of the free. And I'm like, oh my God. So that's why my best friend growing up and getting to go to international vacations every year was like, whoa, you're so cultured as an American. Like for a conservative girly growing up in a conservative home, my bestie's parents opened me up to so much cultural like awareness that I didn't know because I just didn't have parents like that, you know? And my parents are not the international immigrant parents. They're the, we came to America, we're never leaving again parents. My parents are like, we don't ever want to leave America again immigrants. You know what I'm saying? They don't even travel. Like they're not those girlies. They've gone a few places here and there, but they're not those girlies. And so there's just so many layers to this that I think are hard for people. But I always want you to know that, you know, your story is valid. Like Chelsea's life is a real life. It is a true life. And the reason we ask these questions is so we know how to interact with her content. Look at all these replies done to Chelsea. Look, okay, my nightmare. With peace and love, would hate to be Paris right now. If you know, you know. Absolute nightmare to wake up and see your face stitched all of those fucking times. Okay, I would absolutely gag, puke, and shit myself if I woke up on a TikTok thread and I saw 50 faces of Britney being stitched. I'd be like, oh my God, my life is over. When I say I'm not interested in being popular, hear me when I say this. My partner always says, you know, for a girlie who doesn't want to be popular, you chose a very funny career. And I say, you think I don't know that? You think I don't know that? You think I don't live with this everyday anxiety of ever going viral? Even though I want to make money making art, you think I don't know that? You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things where I am very empathetic to Chelsea getting flat. Chelsea gets just dragged on TikTok a lot. And I get it. And there's a reason for it. Or people agree with her, but people drag Chelsea a lot. I'll give you some examples. W, thank you so much for gifting a membership. Whoop whoop. Congratulations. Yeah, let's go. And guys, if you are members, you get to have cool emojis. Some of my members just realized this. Look at all these cool Britney emojis. You have so many options. So check down below for custom emojis. Okay, let me give you some examples of people who make responses to Chelsea.
But I feel like the entitlement of wedding culture is just completely out of control.
So don't go. This is no hate to this specific creator. I understand what she's saying. But if you are not interested in participating in the way that someone has chosen to celebrate their relationship,
it's a wedding conversation.
I promise no one is going to come to your house, put a gun to your head, and make you go to the Four Seasons
The reason Chelsea makes a lot of content about socialization, I think, is because she's ADHD, but doesn't really embrace it in her content. Like, Chelsea doesn't know she's suffering from neurodivergency because I don't think Chelsea wants to see herself as a victim, except when it comes to being poor, even though she grew up middle class. And that's why I think Chelsea is received so interestingly by people, because the intersection she occupies is just so specific. And so Chelsea will make all of this content about like wedding culture's out of control, wedding culture's crazy. Like, I was reading her blog this morning about her wedding, and she spent, I think the total number was like a little less than 30K. And people on Reddit were saying like, it's crazy for Chelsea to talk about how expensive wedding culture is, and then to be like, oh, we did 30K because we had to have 2 weddings, because our families live in 2 countries. Girl, you don't have to do nothing. Chelsea is still stuck in a bubble where she thinks she has to do things because that's the culture, but also complains about it, while also bragging that's what people should do. And it's confusing to people. And so someone's like, Chelsea, if you have people in your life that are going to end their friendship with you because you didn't go to their wedding, listen to me when I say my best friend of 30 years didn't come to my wedding. My sister didn't come to my wedding. None of my family came to my wedding. We're still good, bro, because what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Because the context of the situation didn't make sense for them to leave mid-year, mid-work year, with no planning, no warning, to come to a foreign country to come to my fucking wedding. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, relax. You know, surround yourself with people that aren't going to fucking end friendships over, you know? But at the same time, I remember Chelsea doing a podcast where she was reading like Am I the Assholes? Or Q&As. And this person said, am I the asshole because my bestie was getting married, but our dog was on the verge of death, and afraid I would miss his death by going to the wedding, I asked her if I could stay home, even though I did everything, I planned everything was set up perfectly. And Chelsea's like, yeah, like, fuck your dog, bro. In different words, she basically said, look, old dogs are always sick. Your dog's not going to die. Go to the wedding. And I said, fuck the wedding. Stay with your dog. My partner and I, we're staying with our cat. Okay? So when Chelsea makes this content and we look at her, like, Chelsea, look, is neurodivergently judgmental, which I'm about. I can throw if you can throw. The dilemma is that Chelsea doesn't like it. And I get it. I don't like it either, unless it's good faith. If it's good faith, I'll take it. Girl, I love a punch that's consensual. You know what I'm saying? I love a little 1-2 that's consensual. It's when you feel misunderstood that it's not good. Look, I think in another world, if Chelsea was a debate girly, we could have had some great debates. But again, it requires a level of good faith. You know what I mean? But again, she like doesn't have like, chat said, no. So the dog suffers alone. No. Here was her logic. Are you ready? Her logic was, you have a partner, they can stay with the dog. If Indiana was dying, if my cat that I have had for over a decade was dying, and I told my bestie, I love you, my cat is dying, her saying, oh, but can't your partner just stay with Indiana? What? Like, what does my partner existing have to do anything with my experience with my companion? Do you know what I mean? And also, yeah, my partner is going to be shattered. Chat says, but you're going to leave your partner alone to deal with that alone. And then my partner's shattered, crying on the floor. You think my partner's not going to be emotionally impacted by Indiana dying? And then she does this whole thing where she's like, your dog is not your baby. And I was like, well, maybe not your baby. And I'm not saying, you know, but like, no offense, but like, I mean, kind of. You know what I mean? I mean, like, a little bit. Okay, next video. Only Americans speaking 2 foreign language call themselves polyglots. Okay, so I went on the whole rant about polyglots and the fake learning partial languages to sort of like support the narrative that like, look at this white guy speaking Chinese, Mandarin, whoa. And like, some are really good at it and some are actually just faking it. And some people are just humoring them like, oh my God, you spoke 2 words in our language. You're fluent. Okay. Here's Chelsea being so fucking weird, which is so interesting because she also goes on rants about how Americans can't move to countries without learning the language. And if you do that, you suck. And as a person who took 3 years of working through like very difficult learning disability to get to the point where I'm finally learning Croatian, just so you know, all of this hurts my feelings because as a person with a learning disability, I have a learning disability, it has been a huge struggle. And I get the pity looks from people like, and I'm like, don't look at me that way. Like, it makes it worse when I'm trying to learn and you're like, oh, and I'm like, oh, like it's so hard. And then we have people talking about how like you don't really, and I don't agree with that anyways, because I don't like when people do that to US people who come to the US and are like, learn English. Like, girl, it's hard. Anyways, funny that she got defensive over this comment.
People are so fucking condescending to Americans about stuff like this. Like, they will make fun of us for only speaking English and then make fun of us for speaking others. This comment was just left.
Chelsea literally has done the same thing. Now, listen, I'm not saying Chelsea's a bad person. I'm saying we are so human that we're contradictory. I've probably said so many things in my life that contradict the other, but I'm sure we have a reason behind it. The reason I don't make TikToks is because I don't think any of my ideas are good short form. I think Chelsea's one of those people. I think her content is not good short form. It's barely good long, it's better long form, but So I think sometimes Chelsea stubs her own foot sometimes because she just tries to make like catchy, fast TikToks and she just sounds unnecessarily mean. I don't know, judgmental.
On a video I made several months ago giving tips to other adults who want to learn a new language because I speak 3 languages, which yes, does technically make me a polyglot. 99% of my content on here has literally nothing to do with language. It's not even something I talk about very frequently, but it is true. And I do think if we can help other adults get over their anxiety about learning language, that is
calling yourself a polyglot is like calling yourself an expat. That's what Chelsea hates the word expat, right? I believe so. Then don't say polyglot because that's what you sound like. Instead of saying immigrant, you're saying expat. Instead of polyglot, you mean like most of the world. America is, by the way, a continent, and most Americans, a lot of Americans do speak multiple languages. They don't go around calling themselves polyglots.
Net positive for the world. Et pour info, je parle français depuis assez jeune parce que j'ai une partie de ma famille qui le parle. Une partie québécoise, pas française. Y aprendí el español hace 2 años porque hay muchas personas en mi país que únicamente hablan el español y poder comunicar con esas personas no es una obligación, es un regalo. But any fucking way. If there is one thing that truly annoys me, it's people being condescending towards other people who are learning new languages. This is something, by the way, that a lot of French people, especially a lot of Parisians, tend to be guilty of and why I don't always vibe with them. But anyway, learning language isn't just difficult for adults, it's also for a lot of them profoundly embarrassing. And it can be especially hard for native English speakers who, right or wrong, are used to the world accommodating them to some extent. So the least we can do is be supportive of one another when we are on that language learning journey and encourage each other to be proud of the progress we've made. Lastly, only 13% of the world population speaks 3 languages, so it's not just an American thing, and I'm allowed to be proud of that and call myself a polyglot, so fuck you.
Anyways, I did discover that a lot of the people who were coming to my comment section were like, I don't get why people are confused about Chelsea. Check this out. I've literally watched her for years now, and I don't get why people are surprised. She explained her history years ago. No, she's not progressive. She's liberal. Her poor person job was working at a yacht club. Holy fuck. I guess anyone can, but doesn't that give hints of a background? I don't know. Okay. I don't listen to every detail Chelsea says. Damn, a yacht club. Okay. Actually, no, I think that does ring a bell, actually, now that you say that. Hold on, I'm moving this around. Okay. She knew how to play the game, gambled, and won. She's been open about that. Her NYC apartment itself costs more than most people will ever be able to pay. Her channel is about making money and financial advisement for all. That's the resource, at least. She's total wasp, not news, not attractive, but not news. Not attractive? I think she meant not surprised, maybe. I said she literally makes content about how capitalism and individualism are ruining our relationships. That's why people are confused. She literally lectures people on TikTok about being part of the community and how we can't let capitalism keep us from seeing our friends. It's confusing. But then I asked some people in my chat, oh my God, do you watch her TikToks? And they were like, no, I just watch her YouTube channel. Boom. Boom. That's what it is. This is why I say, like, we're all engaging in Chelsea's content completely differently. The same way that I wonder how people think of my content, because sometimes I'll get people who come into my chat and be like, I watch Brittany Simon and I'm so disappointed she's no longer open-minded to hearing from people who are conservative because she used to be so open-minded. She used to talk to Republicans. I'm still open-minded, girl. My brain just didn't fall out. Okay, I'm over it. I'm over trying to talk to bigots about, not being bigoted. You're 45, make a decision. You know what I mean? So sometimes I realize, like, as we have these conversations, we're all engaging with her content completely differently. There are people who are like, I watch every episode of the TFD, but have no idea she's on TikTok ranting. And I watch both. I watch her TikToks and I watch TFD, and I'm like, and I'm trying to, like, balance those two things when I talk about Chelsea. Okay. So Reddit also had a lot of opinions about Chelsea. Reddit does not like Chelsea. I will say, if I'm Chelsea Fagan, I'm not reading Reddit because it's pretty mean over here. But they said Chelsea Fagan in her second home her second home in France, the video of now having a second home and her comments are so out of touch. The comments read as if she's worked hard and therefore deserves what she has. I don't deny she's worked hard and pays her staff well, but there are so many older women who work hard and don't get financially rewarded. I don't even mind that she has had financial success, but having a lot of different streams of income, by having lots of streams of income, but I hate that she asked her viewers for money many times, making it seem like she's struggling financially too, and that she posts a video that essentially bragging about her second home purchase. Thank you. Don't gaslight me. This girl last year was begging people for money. And that's what I'm saying. Like, how are you acting like you're struggling? And then you're like, second home in France. And I'm like, what? I thought you were struggling. This person said, honestly, she seems so out of touch now. In one of her newsletters, she recommended bathing suits that were $500, saying it's worth the investment. What's especially frustrating is that she often criticizes wealthy people for flaunting excess while ordinary people struggle. With peace and love, okay, you do not need to buy a $500 swimsuit. Now, I will show you examples of this because she does this whole, I'm not cheap, so blah, blah, blah. Listen, I will also say similar things where I'm trying not to buy fast fashion and I'm trying to understand everything ends up in a landfill, so environmental reasons. But Chelsea's trying to save money. I'm trying to save the environment. Do we see the difference? I'm trying to buy things that are sustainable long term. So I'm not trying to buy, but I don't need no $500 swimsuit. Okay, my swimsuit was like less than $100 and I've had it for like 6 years. Chill. Okay, maybe not that long. Maybe 5 years. I don't know. No, it's been built that long. It's been a long time. Okay. This is an example of a video that really is going to piss a lot of people off because now she is giving advice to what sounds like not sounds like, it is a U.S. citizen on how to buy houses in France. So you know how Chelsea tried to be like, oh, my husband's French, and everyone's like, Brittany, her husband's French. That's why she needs a second house in France. Okay, then why is Chelsea giving advice to U.S. citizens who don't have husbands in France on how to buy a house in France?
Where are all the people that want to buy places in the south of France that aren't billionaires?
I've been summoned to this video. I am 37 years old. I am not a billionaire and I own a property in the south of France. And in my opinion, if this is something that you would potentially one day like to do in life, whether in the south of France or another European country, I think there's really 3 things that you must keep in mind. Number 1, first and foremost, is that this must be a practical possibility and not a dream. By that, I mean you very much need to establish to yourself that living in France, whether full-time or part-time, is something that is truly realistic for you. In my case, my husband and I were splitting our time between France and the US for nearly 10 years before we actually took the plunge on buying our own.
Okay, a 4-minute TikTok made a month ago on how to move people to France. What in the colonizer? What in the gentrification? What in the what? That's what I'm saying, girlies. What is happening here? Ma'am. Okay. Also, we're not going to watch that whole 4 minutes unless you really want to. But here's the video that also people were shocked by. Ableism.
Neurodivergent. Because you're neurodivergent doesn't mean you also have to be a loser, and I fear a lot of you are conflating the two. Literally every single video I make about like making friends, building community, hosting, gathering, etc., there are inevitably comments from people being like, well, I have ADHD, I have autism, and therefore I can't do X, Y, and Z, and it's actually ableist for you to suggest that I can. These comments on a video that I made yesterday that are literally just about the data around the fact that having community is
This is such an anti-neurodivergent take. Your depression is super bad right now and you have ADHD and autistic. Too bad. Force yourself to socialize. That was the comment.
Is important to human brains. Like, it didn't even say what you had to do or what building community has to look like for you. Just the fact that it is an important thing to do. You would have thought that I came to this man's house with a gun pointed to his head being like, go start DJing and doing cocaine right now. Here is the thing, building community, making friends, finding people that you can be yourself around, that's important for everyone, regardless of whether or not they are neurodivergent. And I hate to break it to you, but many neurodivergent people also have friends and communities. And the whole point is not just finding people that you want to invest in, but finding ways you can invest in them that work for you. Some people are going to throw house parties. Some people are just going to go on long walks or have fun
phone calls or play board games. Some people are just going to sit in silence next to each other on the couch while they both scroll on their phones. I personally find it very insulting to insinuate that just because someone is neurodivergent means that none of this is available to them and that they shouldn't even try. Being neurodivergent does not mean being an antisocial asshole, so please stop conflating the two.
Blah, blah, blah. Chat said, is it a hot take to say no one gets a second house until everyone's housed? No, I mean, fuck. Chat says, like, no second helpings until everyone's eaten. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, the only way, in my opinion, and I gave this example yesterday, that you could justify a second house is if you are housing literally unhoused people in your family that you know are struggling with mental health or disability, which is a very big probability for me and my family, which is why I think about it all the time. What happens if one of my family members, because there's a lot of them, needs housing? Who's going to pay for it? Now, obviously, the system should be paying for it. Obviously, the government should be housing its citizens. But of course, it's going to fall on the individual because we live in capitalism. We live in a colonizer country. Like, I get it. So obviously, like, I have to stress about these things because, okay, but Chelsea didn't do that. Chelsea didn't think about housing like disabled or like struggling family. She thought about having a way to pay off her fucking second home by calling it a nonprofit. Like, do you know what I mean? That's not the story you told us, and you had a chance to tell us a story. Okay? And that's the story you told us. And again, I feel like the story I'm telling myself is much more reasonable. Like, listen to me when I say this, that I understand that I am going to be responsible. I mean, there is a chance. I know I live in Croatia now, but what happens if my bestie of 30 years who's an only child gets Alzheimer's and dementia and doesn't have a partner or anyone to take care of her? That's my responsibility. And I'm happy to do it. That means possibly moving my whole family. That means moving everything I've built. That's a real reality for us. What do you think? I'm going to leave my bestie in a home? You think I'm going to leave my bestie in a home? Do you know what I'm saying? What do you think I'm going to do? My partner already knows that there's a chance our whole life could be uprooted if anyone gets with dementia or Alzheimer's, and then I'm the only resource. Obviously, what do you want me to do? So again, like, when we have these conversations, and hopefully it doesn't happen, though Alzheimer's and dementia runs in both of our families, you know, like this whole like, oh, I have a second home because. Now, I will say this. Thank goodness my bestie's parents were financially responsible and we're wealthy enough to leave her with enough resources that I won't have to be worried too much about footing the bill. But I already told her mother, because her mother was terrified, like, who's going to take care of her? Me. I've got it. I'll do it. Okay? And that's a serious promise. That's a serious fucking promise. So the most I appreciate is like, they will take care of the finances. I will take care of the care. And that's what I'm saying. So when we have this conversation, that's just one person in my 15-person inner circle. Okay, what about my 9 siblings? What about my parents? What about any of my cousins that might need help? What about any of my friends? Okay, also, just to put it out here about vacationing overseas, I just caught up with one of my other besties, very inner circle. This is like my sister. And we celebrated our birthdays because we're both May babies. And I said, when do you want to come see me? I said, how do we want to do this? I said, when do you have time paid off? By the way, this woman has 3 degrees and a house and is still making less than 6 figures or around there and is still like single, doing her thing, but she's still paying off school loans. She's still doing responsibility. She's paying off her mortgage. You know what I mean? Okay. I said, when will you have time off and a vacation? And when will you be able to come see me? What year can we aim for? Do you want to guess, when we looked at our finances, realistically, when we could both vacation and see each other with time paid off and possibly me going to not Croatia? Like, if we both meet it somewhere else, how much? When we plan for this to happen? 2032. I said, if by some miracle something else happens and there's other ways to move things around, we'll do it. But let's plan for 2032. Because if I have to go to school, if I have big finances ahead of me, if she has to do what she needs to do for work, we actually won't have the funds. 2032. So, you know, when we have these conversations about what is realistic for people who even make, you know, pretty good money, unless we're putting it on a credit card, which we're trying not to, unless we are sacrificing our jobs, which we're not about to. Do you know what I mean? So for Chelsea to turn around and be like, oh my God, you know? So again, it's fine. We're adults. We can handle it. Okay? My sister has to save up at least 2 years before she can come and afford to see me. My little brothers are all saving up. It's going to take them at least 2 to 3 years to save up enough to come see me. And that's one trip. One trip. And that's what I'm saying. Like, and they make okay money. They make more than the average. They make more than the average. But their 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartments are fucking $2,000. Do you know what I'm saying? So again, like, when we're having these conversations, I'm talking about understanding like how far off making $250,000 a year is. And saying, I just bought a second house, but I earned it because I worked hard. As if there aren't women, and I did see a lot of comments from women, specifically educated Black women, who are saying, I have a master's degree. Like, is this, they said, is this you worked hard? Or is this because you're white? Or is this because you're privileged? Or I know Chelsea talks about being privileged, but she's not really talking about being privileged. She says it, but she's not really engaging with what it means. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, example.
On this app has given me a new pet peeve, and that is fucking whataboutism.
My version of this is when people ask me for product details for something that they see in one of my videos, and then I tell them, and then they get mad at me because it's expensive. Like, first of all, you asked, I'm sorry for giving you the information you asked for. But I also think that we've gotten so brain poisoned by cheap consumer culture that we've sort of forgotten that the point is that if you can afford it, you should be investing in higher quality things. This is why it bothers me when, for example, celebrities will shill for fast fashion companies and then people will celebrate that for being relatable. First of all, those celebrities are almost certainly never wearing those clothes, but kind of more importantly, no one should be shopping at fast fashion. Like, we should have better options, but especially if you have the money, you should absolutely not be contributing to those industries. Long story short, I don't care if it makes me unrelatable. I'm buying the best that I can afford, and so should everyone else.
Okay. Chad said, I really appreciated what you said in your TFD video about saving and planning for your siblings' children. My sister has 6 kids in a cult, and I'm so aware of the likelihood of them getting kicked out. Girl, you know. You know. If you know, you know. I am fully prepared for my siblings' children to realize they're gay, queer, trans, to realize they're not conservative, to realize like, uh-oh. And my family's like, I don't even consider them pretty cultish, but I would say like they're still MAGA and religious, which is, you know. So there is going to be a time, I'm sure, the same way I was a gay kid in my conservative household, dreaming of the day that I would get out. You know what I mean? As much as I love my family, hello? So, you know what I mean? When she's, engaging in these conversations, okay, Chet says, wait, what's wrong with what she said? She's basically, instead of saying, okay, example, hold on, let me think. What if I told you this computer chair cost me $1,500? And then you know what I mean? Like if you said, hey, Bray, where'd you get that chair? And I said, oh, it's super like worth it. It was $1,500. Would you not raise like the tiniest of eyebrows at me? Like, by the way, I thought this chair was very expensive, for the record. Okay. I thought this chair was like super expensive. It was like, I think it was like, total, I think it was like, now I'm forgetting, but I think it was like almost $200 or about 200. Yeah, I think it was like $200. And I remember thinking like, holy fuck, $200 for a chair? Jesus Christ. And like, again, so when Chelsea goes, I don't know why you asked me where I got this thing if you're going to be mad that I spent money on it. And we're like, damn girl, because you keep portraying yourself on the internet like you're a struggling girly with the rest of us. That's why. Okay, look at this. What's especially frustrating, Reddit says, is that she often criticizes wealthy people for flaunting excess while ordinary people struggle. But now it feels like when others do it, they're portrayed as morally corrupt or greedy. When she does it, it's framed as inspirational and empowering. Honestly, I just have mixed feelings right now, and I love some content TFD makes, but now she just bought a second home. It makes me want to unfollow. This person says, right, she really has wonderful guests, but the stances she takes really brings up mixed feelings. Okay, it's like, there's something about the mixed messaging that's confusing. You know what I mean? And I'm saying like, everybody can sit there and say like, oh, it's worth the $500 swimsuit. It's worth the $1,500 chair, but you don't have to. You can find a perfectly decent quality chair that will last you 10 years that you don't need to spend $1,500 on. That's what we do as a couple is I say, okay, I want this thing. How do we make sure that it's stable enough to last us minimum 5 years? Okay? Instead of getting a new set every year, which is the overconsumption thing, I say minimum 5 years, including clothing. What can we buy that will last us at least 5 years? Okay? And that's on the minimal, like the like bar in hell number. And then we kind of go through that. And so Chelsea kind of being like, she doesn't want to feel shamed. And I think the dilemma is like, if it is something you're proud of, you wouldn't be. Like, guys, if people make content about me being naked on the internet, like, you're not going to make me feel bad about that. Like, there is literally nothing you could say to make me feel bad about that. Like, nothing. Like, I couldn't even think of any way that I would internalize that as anything to do with me. But I think there is a part of Chelsea that knows she's missing the mark and she doesn't know why. And I'm trying to get her to understand, like, it's like Tyler Catastrophe charging $800 for his chokers. Habibi, why are those $800? Are you putting actual gems on it, jewels? Like, and also, why are we even talking about jewels and gems? Like, what's the ethical source here? Like, again, there's a lot of like layers to this. Now, from a psychological perspective, if I was a therapist, I would say to Chelsea, if Chelsea was my friend, I'd be like, hey, girly, your feelings are valid. Have we unpacked where they're coming from? Because it sounds like you play the comparison game a lot, including with how you look, including with what you think people are saying about you, including like a lot of the things you are fighting against. Like, I don't know who you're fighting. You know what I mean? But you're fighting somebody. Who is it? You know?
Okay, I fear it may be time for a quick economics lesson. There's currently a little debate happening in the comments of this video as to whether or not I am rich on par with a billionaire. And as such, if I have a right to be critical of just the unchecked wealth inequality and people's seeming supportiveness of it on apps like this. Now, I will absolutely not deny that I am upper middle to upper class, even by New York City standards. I own a 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. I pay the $2,395 mortgage myself every month. I'm currently the primary breadwinner of my home, and I earn roughly $100,000 from my main business, The Financial Diet, and $100,000 from my publishing business. I also don't have children or want them, and don't own a car or any other major expense. So yes, I do live a very privileged life financially, more than many people, and I am very involved in progressive politics that would only tax people like me more. That being said, I really do not think we understand the difference between $1 million and $1 billion, and if we did, this conversation would be very different.
Pause. I will say, we, from a leftist perspective, yeah, you could make $10 million and still be considered working class, depending on which theory of economics you were looking at. Because again, just because you make a salary of 10 million doesn't mean you own the means of like, you don't control the means of production, right? So I agree, but that's the dilemma, is like, people don't know that. People don't know that, Chelsea. And do you even know that? But that doesn't change anything, that the material reality is somebody making 30K. It is impossible to live that way in the US and not have roommates or help from family. Like, I remember making 22K a year. And I remember at the time I was engaged with this doctor and she was making 22K a month. Imagine talking to a girly who makes $300 a week or $250 a week. And maybe on the side, I made a little bit more money on YouTube or something, but I was working at grocery and I would be like, oh yeah, I make about $2,200, maybe $30K max a year working my 2 jobs. And this girl made it in a month. And then she was always complaining about money. You know how doctors are. They're bad with money. Always complaining she didn't have money. Always complaining there was no money to do anything. And I sat there and I was like, damn, bro. I mean, I get it. There's a big psychological phenomenon with, I think it's doctors, lawyers, and dentists. Like, they really struggle with money. So I get it. I get it. I'm very empathetic to that perspective. But like Ramith says, you're not paycheck to paycheck. If you're making $200,000 a year, you're bad with money. People who are making 20K, 15K, 30K, they're paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean? Even people making 50K. Like, and again, what does paycheck to paycheck even mean? Like, what does that even mean? And that's the thing that people have to recognize is like, what does that even mean, paycheck to paycheck?
I can afford to buy a new fancy electric bike if mine breaks. Billionaires can afford to buy an island.
Sure.
I have a higher net worth than a homeless person, as this person says. Billionaires have higher net worths than many countries. And the proliferation of so many billionaires, the normalization of that lifestyle, and the fact that we have such extreme wealth inequality is, like, among many other things, like genuinely eroding our democracy in real time. And to be clear, even in the most economically progressive societies, or even back in the days in America when we had a 92% marginal tax rate on the highest earners and we had a much stronger middle class, like, we still did have people like me. We still had people who could afford nice things. So yes, if there is such a thing as class consciousness in America, people who earn a few $100,000 a year and people who earn $10,000 a year are still on the same side against billionaires. A sense of
systematic
scale is key to class consciousness.
Okay, class consciousness, thank you. So, right, that's leftist rhetoric. So all those people are like, she's not a leftist. That's leftist rhetoric. That is a leftist framework, right? I agree with her. That is true politically. Lock in. Politically, she's absolutely accurate. But this isn't politics when you're talking about people like they're stupid for not understanding why you're getting online recommending $500 swimsuits and buying a second home in France. By the way, this is a year ago, so technically the home in France hasn't been bought yet. So I agree with her politically. The framework is true that, you know, but then, you know, there's so many layers to this, so many intersections to this. Her whiteness is questionable under some framework of leftist, Marx, and intersectional feminist. That's why I think we should morph the two. Now, a lot of leftists think your leftism starts at anti-capitalism and identity politics don't pay attention to them. Her being white shouldn't even be talked about because we should all be fighting the billionaires. The dilemma is I do think her whiteness is playing a role, and I do think her lack of embracing any form of disability as it relates to ADHD is playing a role, right? And so, like, when we're having a conversation about this, I can see why it rubs people the wrong way, and the same way that it probably rubs people the wrong way who are making $30K a year hear me say, like, oh, I remember making that. You know, you're right. I don't make $30K a year anymore. Okay. And I'm very grateful every day that I don't have to make that money anymore because you're right. Like, I couldn't survive on it. I was in a very bad economic place. I had like $60K of credit card debt or loans. I had loans. I should just say loans. About $30K, I think, or 40 was about credit card debt. But I had a trailer loan and a car loan and finding all these ways to, quote, live cheaper. And I just couldn't figure it out. And I was in so much debt. And then I made a little bit more money and I was like, okay. So yeah, I understand. Like, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. And I also would wish for a system that helped exactly those people. Everyone should be housed and clad and fed and educated. So, you know, okay. Right? Chad says, but Brittany, is the landlord really on the side of the working class? I genuinely don't know. No. But she isn't a landlord, technically. She's not a landlord. So that's why she's not a landlord. But people were saying that if my mom, who has no retirement, has an extra flat in the back of her house and she rents it out to somebody, is she now a landlord? I will just say there is a difference between, I think, somebody who's renting you a room at a reasonable price to make rent and landlords who through the system do everything possible to give you the lowest quality of living while taking absolutely your whole paycheck. So I do think when we talk about like power structures, there is a difference between a grandma with an extra bedroom you're renting from and, you know what I mean? And somebody who buys a property to rent it out at the highest price for the neighborhood, thus, you know, making all the prices go up. So landlords, when we talk about landlords, should be people who are investing in land to bring prices up. Like, example, before I moved to Croatia, the person I was renting from, a mom and a couple, were renting through an agency. We started off with $1,400 a month. Then it went up to, I think, $1,600 a month. And by the time I moved out, I was paying $1,900 a month. Okay. And mind you, after my brothers moved out, that full rent became my responsibility. So I was paying $1,900 a month. And then before they realized I was leaving and ending my lease with them, she goes, just so you know, rent went up to $2,300 or $2,400. And I was like, It's at 1900 now. It's gone up over the last 3 years. What are you doing? And I said to her, we're not renting with you again. But for the record, that's fucked up because the median income in this neighborhood is only 25K. So what are you doing? And she goes, oh, well, a lot of the nurses and doctors live nearby and we're hoping to rent to them. And I said, like, you're fucked up because this house I know is paid off. It's from 1989. It's a fucking townhouse. There's no way you're still paying off this house. What are you doing raising rent from $1,400 to fucking $2,400? That's a fucking landlord. And that's fucking evil. That's fucking evil. Okay? That's absolutely fucking evil. And that's why I absolutely went out with a bang on that rental because I could not believe how gross that fucking was. And you know what's funny? I took that trauma here to Croatia because I asked my partner, like, hey, we're re-signing our lease. What's the chances he raises rent like $500? He goes, 0. And I said, what? He goes, you can't just raise prices like that on people. He's like, this is Europe. He's like, this is Croatia. He's not going to raise rent on us. And I was like, really? He's like, no, we're already paying a good amount. We're good tenants. Why would he do that to us? And I said, Christ an American, Christ in the US. You know what I mean? Like, okay. All right. Now, here's another video.
I'm not going to actually, okay, so I'm not going to actually reply to the comment because I don't want them to get yelled at, honestly. But someone basically left a comment saying, like, why are you always so bitter? And this is something I really want to address because I do create a lot of videos that
This is 2023, Chelsea, just for the record.
have a somewhat critical or cynical tone about certain things. And I really want to explain this. On a personal level, like on a day-to-day basis, I am extremely happy. I'm contented. I'm fulfilled. I am empowered. Like I genuinely love my life and basically everyone in it. But I am acutely aware because I grew up low income, like just how
I'm going to need the details on that. I'm going to need the details to that. What do you mean by low income? Because when I look at lower middle class, y'all, my heart, that is struggle living. Like when I see it, I go, oh, like I'm so spoiled. I didn't know. And this is my ignorance of truly thinking because I was middle class, squarely middle class, okay, that I understood lower middle class. And then do you remember that trend that was going around on TikTok where it was like lower middle class, upper middle class, middle class? When people with lower middle class houses were showing their houses, I was like, I am so sorry. That is struggle living in a way that I'm like, oh, that is so different than middle class. It is like, it's like I'm wearing like a costume to pretend we struggled like that. And that's why I'm like, what do you mean by lower middle class? What do you mean by lower income? What does Chelsea mean by lower income? Her dad was an illustrator. I don't know what her mom did, but what does that mean? Because I really would like some numbers because this is something I had to deconstruct about my own upbringing, you know? Because, you know, people always say like, oh my God, I could never raise kids. I could never raise kids. 10 kids on 100K, that's nothing. But we didn't have a lower income, we had a very middle class upbringing. We did. You know what I mean? Like, heck, 1 year, my parents took all 10 kids to Disneyland. It was a big deal. And they took them in 2 days. But the fact that even once in our lifetime, 10 of us went to Disneyland, that's a pretty big deal. Do you know what I mean? That alone, you know? So that's what I want to know is like, when you say lower, what do you mean lower?
Unfair the society that we live in is and how much my happy, fulfilled, contented life is because I have money now. Like if you grew up low income and are lucky enough to come into money as an adult, you will always have a very acute awareness of how much harder life is for people on every level when they don't have money. So especially as it pertains to things like financial transparency, ethical workplaces, and other forms of really basic honesty about the world we live in, yeah, I am kind of bitter because I know how much of wealth in this country is about gaslighting the rest of us into thinking that their lives aren't as easy and privileged and frankly joyous as they are. There are absolutely two Americas, and I've been in both of them. And because of that, I will always...
Pause. What do you mean by two? See? What do you mean by two? There's not two Americas. There's a lot of Americas. But there are not two. Lower income, high income. There are not two.
Have a sense of pretty righteous indignation about that.
And like sometimes my content is just fun dinner party stuff, and I love that too. But other times, yeah, it is pretty critical of the world we live in because it is deeply unfair. And I do view it as partially my responsibility to at least be honest about that fact. Okay, so I'm not going to actually reply to the comment.
So let me see if I can find an example. Lower middle class house. Let me see if TikTok will give me one of the trending options. Let me see.
Super rich.
Oh. Hold on, let me see if this is a good example. Okay, we'll go through some of these examples and you can tell me how you feel about it. Okay, so this is an example that came up initially. Okay, here we go, some pictures. This is called lower middle class and extremely messy. Okay. Here we go. Okay. How do you guys feel about that? What about this one? Lower middle class? Let's see. Things in my lower middle class house that just make sense. Laundry room that is also my room. Carpeted bathroom. That's a good one. That's a good one. Holes in the wall because of anger issues. Wall of JCPenney portraits. Hilarious. Okay. Hilarious. Kitchen that is also in the dining room. Yeah. Wrapping paper taped to the wall to cover swatches. Living with my nieces who moved into my old room. Broken unit stove turned pot pan storage. Yeah. Okay, so to me, that's lower middle class. Because like, what do you mean our oven is broken? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what lower middle class is? What's that show? Everybody Hates Chris and The Middle. When I watch those two families talk about money, I have deep anxiety. Is that lower middle class? Because like, it gives me a lot of anxiety. You know, a broken washer and dryer, lower middle class. Like, you know what I'm saying? Holes in the wall that don't get patched up, lower middle class. Because otherwise you could afford to get it patched up. Like, that's, you know what I'm saying? But like, when I watch clips from those shows, I get so much anxiety. I was not raised with that much financial insecurity. You know what I mean? I wasn't raised with it. Now, the first one is an example. I think they might consider themselves lower middle class because it looks like they painted everything themselves. And it looks like everything they bought might have been hand-me-downs. You see the roads haven't been updated. These are not new roads. Okay, so it's not organized. It's not pretty. It's just kind of put everywhere. You can see like this is cute, but you can tell it's not like necessarily the most expensive items that made it happen. The TV and the pool table is, but see how it's like not organized? Like that can be because you don't have the spoons, you don't have the focus. So like, again, it's like an aesthetic. It's like, do you have upgraded cabinets? Do you have an upgraded dishwasher? Like my sister's apartment, as an example, like her apartment hasn't been upgraded appliance-wise in so many years that like I can tell by her stove and her dishwasher, I'm like, oh damn, you're still living like 20 years ago. Versus like if you look at the new apartments, there's an upgrade. Like upgrade is a part of status symboling. So if you don't upgrade your appliances, if you're not upgrading your carpets, if you're not upgrading, if you can't, you know what I'm saying? Then that's an indication of your financial stability. Okay? So that's what I think is like hard for people to process. Here's this one. What do you think about this one? My lower middle class home. Okay, let me see. Creepy ass attic window that goes to an attic that no one in the house has ever accessed. Let me see. Okay. These random ass pieces of ugly ass rug covering the vents because they don't work. Exposed wire, things that don't connect. Yeah, like what is this? You know what I mean? Like what is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's lower middle class to me. That looks like lower middle class to me. Let me see. Now, some of these are memes. Like some of these are jokes. So let me see. Middle class house tour. Okay, middle class house tour. Okay, let's see.
Kind of like where I decorate.
Okay, here we got sound.
Lower middle class home tour.
Oh wait, now she said lower middle class, but it says middle class house tour. Which one? Let's see.
Lower middle class home tour. This is kind of like where I decorate for every season. We still have our Christmas tree up and still some gifts under the tree. We only had a fireplace here and used to be red brick. And I built the built-in shelves.
I would say this is middle class. She said lower middle class, but this is feeling middle class.
Which I'm super proud of.
I'm
This is a
confused.
closet.
No,
A
this
lot
is
of
middle
people
class.
actually don't know.
Okay, this is middle class.
That I'm part of the OG DIYers on Instagram, and it was basically a cult, so I left. The stairs, we have one bedroom to the left, one bedroom to the
Okay,
right.
this is middle class,
and
girls.
a bathroom right in the middle, and there's a little landing
She
over
might have
there.
misspoken at the beginning to say lower, but this is
with the
definitely
closet.
middle class.
These are just decorations for my daughter. Her toilet paper.
I'm gonna
things.
skip. Okay, let me see bathrooms.
my
Let me see
thing.
bathrooms.
I'm not showing bedrooms, but this is a bedroom. This is a bedroom. And this is a bedroom.
Okay, I will say that the doorknobs give lower middle class. The doors give lower middle class. I could see
That's
that.
a primary, and it has a
Because
bathroom
that's a very expensive thing to upgrade, right?
in there. Over there, but now I work in the office. I think it's a great spot.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, Chet said, are people just mistaking aesthetics for class status? Well, kind of, but sort of. But that's how you express class status. So this is why we say everyone's poorer than they come off. So you have to separate. Okay. You have to separate the difference between people pretending they make more money than they do by aesthetic and people who can't afford to pretend because they can't afford to patch holes in their walls. Do you know what I'm saying? So yes, you can be rich and look poor, but then you're just faking not having money. You're still rich. You know what I'm saying? But there are truly families that have to pick and choose, like, do I fix the microwave or do we just like not do that? If you have to pick and choose what you can afford to upgrade, you're lower middle class, like to some extent, because like if my microwave is broken, I just go get a new microwave. I find the money somehow. The money appears. I find it. Boom, money. And I go get it replaced. Do you get what I'm saying? If you're lower middle class, you will have a broken microwave for possibly 6 months to 12 months to 10 years. I've been in those homes. I've been in people's homes where they're like, oh, the dishwasher broke 10 years ago. We haven't fixed it. And I'm like, the way I would not even go a week with a broken dishwasher, the way I would not even go 3 whole days. That's the privilege of being like 10 years ago, wrap it up. Wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? So I do think like, you know, Chad said something about minimalism earlier. Look, you're only a minimalist if you're rich. You can't be poor and a minimalist. So that's why people look at minimalism and it's not impressive to people because we know you don't have money. But if you have money and you're a minimalist, ooh, all of a sudden, oh, you're making a choice. Like, oh, if you're poor and you don't buy a new wardrobe, that's because you're poor. But if you're rich and you buy new clothes, ooh, you're a humble king. So it's always about the why. Minimalism came from wealthy people. Like in the West, in America, when it was made very prominent by those 2 white guys, the minimalist guys, they have money. You're not a minimalist if you have money. I mean, if you don't have money, you're just poor. So the question is like, are you a minimalist or are you not? And that's why a lot of poor people, I used to do this as well when I had absolutely no money, is we hoard. That's why our houses can look messy or it looks like we're collecting because we don't have money. That's why I used to go to the dollar store and buy $100 worth of stuff just to fill my room so I would feel alive. And then I'd realize, why am I spending all this money? Do you know what I mean? And so again, when we have these conversations, like upper middle class as an example is I'll show, okay, example of upper middle class when they know, okay, so this is a crazy story. This is a crazy story. So I was middle class growing up. So we had 3 neighborhoods. We all grew up in the same neighborhood, but my bestie grew up upper middle class. I grew up middle class, and our other bestie grew up like lower middle class because they had economic troubles while living in the same neighborhood. But yet we were all together, okay? For a lot of reasons. My parents planted a tree that caused plumbing issues on my bestie's property. $10,000 of plumbing issues. And they had talked to my parents about it kind of casually because they're white. And they were very like, hey, like your tree's coming into our yard. Like, you know, it's kind of impacting our plumbing stuff. And my bestie's parents are not confrontational. They're like white, okay? And I didn't learn this until I was older because I always said like, oh yeah, I remember when you like we did that construction and we got rid of this tree and the plumbing, and they go, Brittany, we paid for that. I said, what do you mean? They go, your parents wouldn't pay for it. We couldn't figure out how to have the conversation with them. And when we brought it up, they kind of felt like, well, it's on your property. So, and I was like, really? And when I brought it up to my parents, it was very much like, oh, well, you know, it's not on our property. I was like, but your tree caused the plumbing issues. And my parents were like, well, we didn't have $10,000. And I was like, yeah, but that's that kind of stuff that causes major issues in like different family structures. It's true. My parents didn't have $10,000 to pay for this plumbing issue, but it was their tree's fault. So legally they are responsible, but morally and ethically, my bestie's parents knew they didn't have the money and said, we're not going to fight you over this. We're not going to take you to small claims court. We'll just pay it. And they could because they had the money. But there was two unnecessary wrongs that happened there. My parents, instead of being like really grateful and like realizing what just happened, felt sort of like, well, what are we supposed to do? It's a tree. And I'm like, apologize, say something. And then the same thing from my friend's parents, like, I'm glad they paid for it. They really helped my family out, but it sucks that they felt like they never got a thank you. And all of the years that family has paid for me, taken me in and housed me, my mother has never once picked up the phone and thanked them. She blames them to this day for the reason I'm gay. And all of those years of that family paying for me to go on vacation with them, helping me with bills, never have my parents picked up the phone and thanked them. And I just think as a community effort, I don't like that. And I think it comes from an entitlement of, well, their beliefs. And that's what I'm saying. Like, my parents would never think to thank people who house their kids because they also blame them for the way their kids lost their way. You know what I mean? And I'm saying I love my parents and they were generally good neighbors. I think that is true. Everywhere they've gone, people generally liked them. And I also think my parents are still MAGA and conservative. So there's always a little bit of awkwardness there. But I will say it's about that balance. And that's what I'm saying for everybody when we're engaging in these conversations of who's who and Chelsea Fagan and who's lower class, middle class. We're all different girlies and we could be all living in the same neighborhood. But the struggle is different for all of us. Just because you live in a neighborhood doesn't mean you're not dealing with stuff. So maybe Chelsea is living at that intersection of maybe her parents didn't have enough and maybe she wasn't poor, but maybe she wasn't, you know. Chad says in the US, can you be working class and have a house? Guys, you are working class. All of us are working class. It depends on what you mean by working class, but most people are working class people. Like, working class is very dependent on what you mean by that. If you mean through a leftist framework, we're all working class, right? But if you're talking from like working class to like white collar or something like that, it just depends on what you mean by that framework. I don't know which framework you're using. So it depends on what that means. So I don't know. I don't know what bubble you're referencing there. Sorry. But Chad says working class in the UK is pretty specific. Yeah, I feel like I don't know what that means. Chad said working class is if you need to work to make a living and don't live off investments. Yeah, I mean, that's most Americans. Like, most Americans are working class. You know what I mean? Most people are not living off their investments. You know what I mean? Even if they have a house, they have to work to pay their bills, you know? And also blue collar workers can afford houses in North America. Yeah, working class people have traditionally been able to afford housing. That's why Americans are so annoyed. Because like you should have been blue collar and affording things and now you can't, you know? Yeah. Chad said you're working class if you literally can't stop working for longer than a week or your family is screwed. Yeah, then most people are definitely working class. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even do that unless I pre-work. Like, the only time I can take a week off of work, and even then I'm still anxious about it, is if I pre-record a week's worth of work and have it out for you. You know what I mean? So like, I consider myself pretty paycheck to paycheck in the way that I don't know every month if I'm going to get paid, but I hope. And so far, so good. But, you know, that's the problem is like, I think it's hard to say I make this much money and to say that I don't know if it's going to come next month, because both things are true. I make this money and I'm not sure if it's coming next month. And every time we wait, we hold our breath every month to see how much I'm going to make because I don't know. It fluctuates every single month. So we wait. Every 30 days is like, what can we pay this month? And I still make more than the average person. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? Anyways, okay. With that said, does that answer that question about possibly lower middle class? Let's go to Chelsea again, okay? This is a good example that I think is interesting. And again, I'm all about quality items. I just think like the way she answers these questions is defensive when it doesn't need to be. It says that wallpaper costs $610 per panel, cry emoji, okay?
Price of the wallpaper that I have in my library nook, which is totally fine. I will tell you the price of literally anything I own, including my apartment. And for reference, I did only use one panel of this wallpaper, but honestly, given how perfect it was for the look I was going for, I probably would have even paid slightly more. But this is just also a general note for when you're watching my content, especially things that you might see me wearing or see in my home. Like, I generally don't really buy cheap things. Like, I will always shop a discount, especially when I'm buying home stuff. Almost everything I have is secondhand or otherwise discounted, same with clothes. But I try to really invest in super high quality things. And that goes double for if I'm making any kind of renovation in my home, because I'm also thinking about the long-term home value. But anyway, I think social media has really just trained us to value cheapness and convenience over basically any other quality. And while I do understand this on some level, I also think that there are other things that you can prioritize. And for me, it's all about investment in quality and cost per use. And getting something for cheap doesn't mean it has to be of cheap quality. Like, shopping secondhand changed my life. But anyway, that's my PSA. This person,
right? I just think like the way she answers, and I do think it's her neurodivergency, by the way. I give Chelsea a lot of leeway and the way she communicates because I think it's her ADHD pattern. People also wonder if she's autistic, but I think it's the way she speaks, which I also get criticism for. Like, Brittany, the way you speak sounds so like, you know? So I try to be empathetic to Chelsea in this way. I just wish she would read the room more, which again, some people are like, Brittany, that's ableist. I'm just trying to say be kind. Read the room. People can't pay for groceries. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be ableist. I'm just saying like, people can't pay for groceries. And you're out here talking about $600, wallpaper and $500 swimsuits. Like, girl, please be so for real. Like, that's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
Genuinely unhinged video. I've seen a lot of genuinely unhinged videos on here in the past 48 hours, but in some ways, the ones that frustrate me the most are the ones where people are like, well, actually, Biden's economic policy and inflation and this, that, and the other, like basically essentially saying like he was way better for the economy.
So once again, all those people that are like, Chelsea's not political. I think this is the thing. This is 2024 Chelsea. People are like, Chelsea's not political. Maybe not to you, but I don't know how you could say Chelsea Fagan isn't political.
Like, things are much better right now in terms of inflation and unemployment than they otherwise would have been. And that it's like a really dumb choice to vote him.
Okay, wait, hold on. Chat says that makes sense. No. Chat says I actually thought she sounded fine, but people also accuse me of being a robot. When I say she sounds a certain way, I'm not just saying the way she sounds. I'm saying the things she's saying with the body language she's using, with the communication she's deciding to use, the way she's sitting up, the way she sounds could be literal, the sound of your voice, or it could be the way she sounds, the way she comes across. So again, somebody wrote me, I think this is a younger person, so I try not to correct them too often because I know you're on a journey, but they wrote like, oh, I think you're wrong about Tyler Catastrophe when they say like, oh, I'm so hot. It's like when my friends say it, Habibi, no, it's not. No, it's not. Like, I know what it's like to have friends who are like, girl, yes, clock it, T, AAVE, like, yeah, stealing, yeah, I get it. Like TikTok language, promoting people, celebrating people, we all get it. That is not what Tyler Catastrophe is doing. That is not what he's doing. And so when you sit there and you're like, oh, relatable, my friends and I. No, you're doing something different. You're doing something fabulous. He's not doing something fabulous. So when people say, oh, but I sound like that. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. You think you sound like that? You don't. You don't sound like that. You sound different, wonderful, expressive, beautiful. Tyler does not sound like that. Tyler sounds like he's trying to convince us of something. You know what I'm saying? Chad said, when I first saw your channel, I thought you were so mean, but it's just the way you talk. I hope that's not an insult. It's not. It's not an insult. It's my life. Okay, anyways.
out of office. And it frustrates me because what you're talking about, the delta between what the numbers / reality actually are and what people think / vote for, that's politics. Like, politics is not studying for the SATs, it is getting people to sit with you at the lunch table. And if Biden was the better economic choice for most Americans, which for the record I agree with, it's one of two things. Either the positive changes in his presidency were not enough to—
Okay, blah, 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 blah. Next video.
To talk about being the friend who actually gives a shit during a full-blown flake epidemic. Because we have rebranded being chronically unavailable as aspirational and chronically inconsiderate as boundaries, so we are fighting for our lives out here.
This is Having People Over, my 30-day series all about hosting, gathering, and building community at any budget to celebrate my upcoming book, Having People Over.
Now, when it comes to being the hosting friend who is never reciprocated, I want to say first and foremost that I see you anytime I make a video on this subject. Like, people are always like, I feel like I'm always doing things for my friends and I'm never getting anything in return, and I know how that feels. Like, it is not my case now, but that took a while to get to, and I spent many years feeling quietly resentful of what I felt were really, really imbalanced friendships. And the reality is because they were. Now, first and foremost, we got to call it on any 90-10 relationships. That is to say, anytime you are doing all the calling, texting, organizing, making plans, etc., like, you can let the person know, flag it, say, hey, I'm just noticing that there's like a really imbalanced dynamic here, blah, blah, blah. Like, but if they're not like making really active strides to change that, it's a wrap. Conversely, grow where you are watered. If you notice that there are people who are really prioritizing you, checking in with you, making time for you, showing up for you, like, make sure that you are doing that in return. Also, remember that just like people are allowed to be flakes, you are allowed to not want to be friends with chronic flakes. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've never canceled plans. Of course I have. I'm a human being, but I also know that there are certain things that I have to show up for come hell or high water. So if you have a friend who is constantly bailing on things, not showing up on time, flaking, ghosting, canceling, whatever, like, you're allowed to not want to be friends with that person anymore. And there's a big difference between like, oh, can we reschedule our random lunch that we had planned on a Tuesday afternoon, and like, I didn't show up to your 30th birthday party with no notice. Similarly, people who are over-identified with being a busy person, who are constantly packing their schedules and leaving very, very little room for friendships, like, that's a big red flag. There are certain times and life situations for everyone that make us way too busy and leave us with very, very little room for nourishing our friendships. But that should not be our constant state. We should be trying at all costs to not be in that state. People who are constantly humble bragging about their self-imposed busyness, it's a wrap. Capitalism gives us enough brainworms about how our only value lies and how occupied we are. I don't need that at home. But lastly, I just need to say this. If you are a person who is very intentional about curating your platonic relationships, who loves to host, gather, etc., like, you have to go out of your way to find other people who share those interests. Like, go to hobbies, meetup groups, social mixers where you can meet other people who have these same interests, because it's not even really about the actual activity. It's about being the kind of person who would go to a social activity, who wants to put an effort into making and keeping friendships. We do not have to keep grandfathering in relationships which are no longer serving us. We get to upgrade. So I think we need to talk about,
you know,
5 rules for being a better friend in a world that's terrified of basic communication. Because yes, we can see in the data that millennials and Gen Z are socializing way less, but it's not just because they're broke and tired, although they are often those things. But it's also that we've become so conflict avoidant that we would rather slow ghost a friendship than have one mildly uncomfortable conversation.
This is Having People Over, my 30-day series all about hosting, gathering, and building community at any budget to celebrate my upcoming book, Having People Over.
Number 1 is set expectations clearly in advance rather than waiting for people to accidentally offend you. I'll give the example of a party, but if you want people to remove their shoes at the door, keep their voices down because of a sleeping baby, and bring a dish or a bottle of something to drink, say those things when you invite them. Of course, we state things in a polite way, but people want to know how they're supposed to behave. And often discomfort accumulates from really small transgressions that could have been avoided by communicating your expectations. Number 2 is if someone has hurt you, say that. Generally speaking, we don't mean to hurt each other, and sometimes even our closest friends can say or do something that really upsets us. And the whole point of friendship is giving each other both grace and honesty. So rather than suffering in silence for years while your friend is oblivious, find a time to take them aside and compassionately let them know what happened. Give them a chance to hear you, to apologize, and to act differently in the future based on this information. And many people are afraid of doing this because of how the other person might respond, which brings me to number 3, which is that no friendship that doesn't contain honesty and compassion is worth keeping. If you share with something that something they did hurt you, even unintentionally, and their response is to freak out on you or become abusive, you shouldn't keep that friendship. And one friend with whom you share mutual respect and transparency is worth 10 that you don't feel you can be honest with. Number 4 is that never clearly expressing a preference doesn't make you easygoing, it makes you burdensome. It may seem like being the person who says, I don't care, whatever's fine with me, we'll just do whatever, makes you really easygoing, but in many cases all that does is put the burden on other people to figure out what the plan is. And you may have a really type A friend who prefers to plan absolutely everything, and if so, that's fine, that can be your dynamic. But that should be clearly communicated with each other. But if in general you are the person who never plans, initiates, proposes, organizes, or even states a preference, all that does is put the work on everyone else. Lastly, number 5 is tell people what they mean to you. Don't assume that your friends just know that you love them or care about them or are thinking of them or are proud of them. Say it. Reach out of the blue and say, I was just thinking about you today, really looking forward to catching up when you have a chance. Or if you saw that they achieved something, reach out and tell them individually how proud you are of them. If you love them, say you love them. If they did something that made you feel really loved or seen or appreciated, let them know how much it meant to you. There are so many little ways in which we take friendship for granted.
I do think this video specifically is very neurodivergent, helpful. And I think she's actually speaking like she's in a way giving really great advice to a lot of neurodivergent people who don't know the social etiquette. And also, though, I think it paired with the video that hurt people's feelings, like this.
You. Because you're neurodivergent doesn't mean you also have to be a loser, and I fear a lot of you are conflating the two. Literally every single video I make about like making friends, building community, hosting, gathering, etc., there are inevitably comments from people being like, well, I have ADHD, I have autism, and therefore I can't do X, Y, and Z, and it's actually ableist for you to suggest that I can. These comments on a video that I made yesterday that are literally just about the data around the
You know, so I think what it is like, I think, okay, so here's the tea. Here's the tea. Lock in. Allegedly, Chelsea Fagan, according to Reddit, was having secret subtweeting beef with another girly in the finance bubble. And she was making Instagram posts and talking about somebody, and people were trying to figure out who it was. And remember how you and I said, I don't know who she's beefing with right now, but it sounds like she is having a friendship breakup. I think that's what this content ended up being about. I think Chelsea, instead of actually being direct, even though she says she's a direct girly, is actually subtweeting, which I feel makes sense. I've done the same thing multiple times where, you know, my real life and my online life are separate. So sometimes I do vent to the internet about like the frustrations of my real life. But the reality is like they don't mix and mingle. But allegedly this girly was maybe a content creator. So, but either way, I understand that there might be something she's really like expressing, some real authentic struggle that she's expressing that ends up spilling into her life. Instead of just saying like, I'm really going through it right now, I'm having a friend breakup and it really like hurts me. It's like this weird stuff. And then I don't like the idea because listen, I have made content like this a long time ago. Like when I was like 21 and I'm 37. The dilemma is like, this was last year. I made a video one time that was called like, get out of the house. Like the reason you don't have friends is like, you won't leave the house. I was 21. That was a very long time ago in a very different millennial setup. An undiagnosed autistic girl who was faking extroversion because she was, for the first time in her life, free from her parents. Okay, I'm 37 now. Chelsea's 37 now. And I'm saying, okay, we're too old now. Same thing with Trisha. Like, you're 37 now. Let's go. You know what I mean? It was, you know, it was one thing to make it at 21. This is why the whole Paris drama that's happening on my side of TikTok. I'm like, she's 21. I'm over it. Next. And also, like, you guys are just, she's 21. Like, she corrected herself, move on. And I get it, like people, it's a whole thing. You don't know. It's a whole thing. You know what I mean? I am very empathetic. Plus, you know, again, the problematic behavior is only so, I try to realistically engage at a certain level. You know what I mean? So I can accept like like the Korean creator said, like I can accept like 1,000 different mistakes or / choices that were bad that we come back from. But the issue is like, where's the growth? So again, I'm not Chelsea announcing this house. It's not like this is old Chelsea. Chelsea just announced buying a second house. So the criticism of her is fresh for that reason. It's not like we're creating reasons to be upset with Chelsea. Chelsea gave us one yesterday when she posted that video.
So the good news is that reading is inherently political. The bad news is that that does not mean reading is inherently progressive. And frankly, a lot of you are addicted to reading books that may as well have been written by J.D. Vance. Like if we are constantly consuming narratives that are as much a male wealth and power fantasy as they are a romantic fantasy, or that positions sex and even within that a very narrow kind of sex as the truest form of intimacy, or mandates a happy ending that either heavily implies or outright requires marriage and pregnancy, or that can't go 10 pages without reminding you how thin the female protagonist is, or how big and strong the man who loves her is. Like, yes, in this case, you're still reading, but I don't know how much politically better off you are than if you had just been like watching a lot of reality television. I think we do still tend to over-ascribe a level of thoughtfulness or discernment or political progressivism on people who prefer to read over consuming other forms of media, but I think that gives a little too much credit as to what the person is actually reading. Anyway, all of this is to say that what we read matters almost as much as the fact that we're reading to begin with, and it is not at all safe to assume that just because a person's reading means that they're opening their minds, and certainly not that it's making them more progressive.
I mean, I agree with this, but I agree with it when it comes to all content. So I was shocked to learn that Chelsea specifically doesn't watch younger people because she wants to hear from women over 50, as if women over 50 haven't had so much to deconstruct. Women over 50 is like the most suffering demographic of Gen Xers. these women, a lot of them are stuck in constant cycles of patriarchal and white supremacy standards that they've internalized their whole life. So I'm kind of surprised. And that's why I'm always surprised. Like, look, let's go to Chelsea's channel. What's shocking about Chelsea's channel is she's always interviewing, yes, interesting people, but those interesting people are also usually capitalists. Like this lady here, she's interesting.
My profile.
I'm only 30 minutes into this interview, just a heads up, disclaimer. But she's talking about how she made money, how she had, oh, I'm sorry, it's on me. This lady here, okay, but she's basically, the whole story so far is how she had stores in JCPenney and how she sold a book about, and how people just really don't have money, how they're pretending to have money. Right? So like, I hear that, but at the end of the day, like she's still just interviewing people. I mean, this woman I think is 70, if I remember correctly. So just 72. So she's not even a Gen Xer. She's just literally a boomer. But there's always this capitalistic spin, and Chelsea is praising her for making lots of money, for having stores at JCPenney, for like I get it, because we want to praise women for being successful. And also I'm too much of an anti-capitalist to be like super stoked. But I will just say this, guys. Okay, you're not a capitalist because you own a business. You are not a capitalist because you pay people for their time or get paid for your time. You are not a capitalist. You do not own the means of production because you make art and you sell it. You are engaging in capitalism to a certain degree, all of us are, but the degree to which you engage with it needs to be deconstructed. So yes, we can't escape from engaging in capitalism, but that doesn't make you a capitalist. And yet I would say how you engage, like explaining to white US citizens how to buy a house in France for fun. Do you know what I'm saying? Is an issue. Like, Europeans, people here are having literal protests. They are protesting tourists. In Spain and other places, they are begging tourists to stop fucking using Airbnb and stop coming here. And Chelsea is literally giving a roadmap to people in the US on how to buy a house in France. Again, a lot of European countries also have, like, if your ancestry is from here, we want you to come back. A lot of people have programs, but they do not want rich Americans, rich US people to come to these countries and drive up the prices. Okay? And so again, like, I don't understand. She uses the word, okay, so just FYI, in political bubbles, progressive does not mean leftist. Progressive can be liberal. So Chelsea calls herself a progressive, which I used to mean leftist, but I've started saying leftist because I found out that the bubble difference is that liberals call themselves progressive because of identity, politics, and social issues, but they don't always mean capitalism. So as much as she shits on capitalism, doesn't mean she's an anti-capitalist. Because liberals and Democrats think like capitalism can work for them. Or if we just hold billionaires accountable, we can all be successful capitalists. You know? So again, even like I told you, in Croatia, there are $1 million houses, and my in-laws own a home. Their home was not $1 million. It was like $200,000. Okay? Because that's the average, like 200, 150, 300. But in other places, they are going up, and it's becoming harder from locals to buy, especially when foreigners come in and buy at higher prices. So again, if foreigners were coming in, and again, it's kind of a mix of some people who say they want to sell at the highest price possible to get the most money possible, and that drives up the neighborhood price. You know how people used to brag? I don't know if your parents ever sold a house, but they'd be like, "Oh my God, we sold it $100,000 over asking." That's not good. That's only good for you, but it fucks over the whole neighborhood when people are doing bidding wars for your house, that people are paying $100,000 over asking. Realtors in America and the US are literally taught to cause a bid war, to cause a bidding war. You know, oh, they wanted 700,000. Well, this person wants 750. Well, then how about 800? Well, this person offered me 820. Well, okay, fine. How about 900? I watched it happen in Seattle in front of me with even rental prices. Rental prices started doing bidding wars. Private rental people would make you first pay $50 to $80 for every application, of course, typical. And then on top of that, they'd be like, well, these people are willing to pay me $5K, but these people just came in and said, we'll give them $7. So, of course, Chelsea announcing, right, that she bought a second house. Yes, I can see why that's so empowering to people. And I can also understand why for a lot of us, we're like, okay, why? Why'd you buy it? And then her whole idea is like, oh, we're going to like make it a nonprofit. Okay. I guess. Man, she's got a lot of replies. And then for that person to say to me, oh, I'm not seeing any negative comments on Chelsea's video. Are you sure that's happening? As if my sanity is up for question when she literally put out this whole novel for us to read. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to come for Chelsea. I'm just asking clarifying questions. And, you know, this video or this comment she liked, imagine being mad at the financial advisor content creator has money. Is it not proof that she knows what she's talking about? Congratulations, Chelsea. Talk about missing the fucking point, bro. Like, talk about missing the fucking point. You know? It's like, damn. Anyone complaining that this personal milestone shared after 10 years of building and running financial, blah, 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 it's like, you guys are kind of missing the point, you know? But I get it. And also, it didn't help that, you know, which video is it? Is it here? She literally made a video like a year ago talking about how the company was struggling and then recently said the essays aren't paying enough and we have to stop doing them. So do you make money or do you not make money? That's it. That's all people are asking. They're like, wait, I'm confused. Didn't you just say you made a lot of money? Like, it's just confusing. Anyways, all of this to say, for all the people that are in a different place and you have different values, that's valid. You're valid. I'm not coming for you. I'm just speaking about my values and from my place. Okay, you can't say I'm jealous of Chelsea because she eats meat and I don't. Right? I'm just saying, as a person who's plant-based, here's my opinion. You can't be like, oh, you're just jealous she eats a juicy burger every night. It's like people don't understand when you watch someone's content, you are signing up for their beliefs. On my 2 videos of mine get constantly the same comment. Who's this girl and why is she talking so much in the debate? You remember that Anna Kasparian, whatever that redhead lady's name is? I was watching Pearl. I'm watching their debate. And they're like, why is this girl talking so much? Because you're watching a reaction video. And then my Tyler Catastrophe video over on my Bert Simon channel, people were like, why does she keep inserting her politics? Listen, I signed up for this job, but sometimes these questions drive me crazy. So listen, moving forward, if you are good faith, I will absolutely respond and or respond on stream and or do my best. But this is a part, and you know, Cat Black was just complaining about this too. Some of you got to do the work and meet us halfway. Some of you have to understand we've been talking about these things for 20 years. You know what I mean? We got to assume you're at least walk into the room and know you don't know what's going on. Do you know what I mean? And then ask for clarification. But it is annoying. Obviously, you don't need to hear this. I'm sure as audience members, you do not need to hear how annoying it is, but it is a reality. So I'll do my best to be autistically transparent to you, to meet people where they are and answer questions, and to make sure people know that, like, I am just expressing my views. But hey, moving into the future, I have to make a business decision about how much I censor my comments. Obviously, I think I do a pretty good job right now, but if I ban you, it's because I'm reading you as bad faith. So please, if you don't want to get banned, just understand that from my perspective, I get called slurs. I get death threats. I get people saying, I'm going to report this bitch to the cops. I'm going to find out where she lives. And I have to block those comments as soon as possible so people don't start getting ideas. I don't know always how to tell the difference between you and them, but I'll try my absolute fucking best. And if I'm just asking for you to meet me halfway and say, hey, Britt, just really curious. I'm still learning. Or hey, Britt, genuine. Or hey, Britt, like, I really disagree with you here. Here's my opinion. Okay, great. I love differing opinions. But you can't come in my chat and say, Brittany's so racist because she doesn't agree with other Black people that Anita deserved to die. I'm going to block you. You can't say, oh, black people agree with me. This old lady deserved to die, so Britney's wrong. Okay, so those people are wrong too. No one deserves to die over anything. Like, no one deserves to die. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the death penalty or any of that, you know? So just, thank you. Just that I just discovered your channel and I really like your thoughtful process. You seem kind. How did you acquire your knowledge about your politics, or can you direct me to a video that talks about it? Hold on, I'm pausing because I'm thinking, well, I don't make political content. I talk about politics because I talk about philosophy. I'm not a political commentator, for the record. So I don't know if you're asking me an educational question, like do you have a degree in poli-sci or something? Or if you're asking me about my personal journey into politics. I was raised in a political family. I've been political my whole life. I've protested, raised money, been conservative, been liberal, been progressive. I have a long history of being politically active, but I was raised in a political family. My best friend's political. I grew up around very politically active people. So I could say it's cultural at this point. You know what I mean? But are you asking me as a U.S. citizen how I vote? Like, I don't make political content. So the question to me sounds confusing, because how did I learn about my politics? I guess the same way anybody else does. I read, I get involved, I vote. And I research, and it's also a special interest. And I'm also indirectly impacted by politics. I'm femme, I can get pregnant, I'm queer, all of the other things that this administration is against. So I hope that answered your question. See, I don't exactly understand the question, but I feel like there is a good question there. You know? Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Chat said liberal is a fence sitter. You can care about human rights, but you're in the middle of the political system. You care about human rights, but think you can reform capitalism, provide human rights. Yeah, I think this. I understand, because when I was in my 20s, I really wanted to be such a girl boss, like be a millionaire, be rich, Bugatti. You know, like not literally Bugatti, but you know, close enough. And I wanted to be so wealthy. I wanted to pay off all my friends' debt and buy everybody houses. And then I just realized, like, what is this thing that I'm aspiring to that comes at the expense? Like, I am so bad at capitalism. And this is why I gotta go, because I'm editing my video. Why would you do this to me, chat? Why would you? Are you trolling? Do not confuse new people. Oh, hold on. I'm Jordan Peterson, and I do not approve this message. Chat says she's a big fan of Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson inspired Britney's politics and philosophical work. How dare you? I don't even know that, dirty bitch. How dare you? Don't confuse chat. Don't confuse chat. Don't do that. That is not true. Chat's trolling. Chat's trolling. Don't. Oh, no. Oh, damn. You know what they say? I got bitches. Britney's one of my bitches. Don't tell them that. You're going to confuse the new people. Fuck Jordan Peterson, okay? Fuck. Tone indicators, guys. Tone indicators. Sarcasm. Sarcasm. Anyways, fuck. There goes my whole reputation. I don't even know why I'm trying. Fuck. I don't even need a reputation. Anyways, I understand why a lot of girlies who are still fighting patriarchy are absolutely trying to out-earn the men in their lives. But, you know, everyone's on a journey. So I wish the best for Chelsea, honestly. I'll keep watching. You know, I'm a fucking masochist over here. I'll watch it anyways. I got to be critical because I promote her so much. And I got to warn people if I promote Chelsea to people, just like heads up. She's a liberal. She's not an anti-leftist, or she's not an anti-leftist. She's not a leftist, and that's okay. She doesn't have to be. I mean, I would prefer her to be. But look at the leftist infighting that happens all the time. You watched Noah's stream the other day? Look, we're going to argue, we're going to fight, but just know that I wish you all the best. And at the end of the day, we are on the same side, and we are fighting for the liberation of all of us. All of us, okay? With that said, I am going to go. I need to finish editing this commentary video about can you be rich and famous and good? Probably not. It's a really fucking good commentary video about how even good people use philosophical evil to stay trending, because how the fuck can I not? Like, I know what the universe is tempting me to do, and I'm not going to do it, girl. but I know it's there. How much, God, the world really rewards so much like philosophical evil. Anyways, and yes, I do think it's philosophically evil for Chelsea to buy a second house in the context she bought it. And I do think it's philosophically evil for her to make content promoting to US citizens how to move to Europe when Europeans are begging you, please stop fucking doing that. Please stop fucking doing that. I can't believe she made that video. That's it. That was it for me. Girly, I know you want to brag you bought a second house in France, but what are you giving people advice on how to do the same thing the people in that location are begging you not to do? They're begging you, please stop telling people this. Please. And she's doing it. I think that was it for me. That was like the nail in the coffin. Like, anyways. All right. Please go subscribe to my Bert Simon channel. I'll link it. You can also just look up Bert Simon. It will come up. And I will have a new video out for you in the next 8 hours. I'm going to go edit for 8 hours. Okay, bye. Love you in a non-parasocial talks away. Bye.